The night air was thick with tension as Adrian's words sliced through the silence of our living room. "I regret marrying an older woman," he spat out, his eyes devoid of the warmth I once knew. His words stung, a stark reminder of how far we drifted apart. "My name is Alara, a 36-year-old woman working for an international corporation. Life with Adrian, my husband, 3 years my junior, started as a harmonious melody. He was a charismatic leader, the kind who naturally commanded attention. I never minded his dominance. In fact, it brought a sense of balance to our relationship. Our routine was simple. I managed the household chores while Adrian took charge of our outdoor activities. It was a dynamic that worked, until the day my father fell seriously ill. I still remember the frantic call from my mother, her voice trembling, telling me about my father's worsening condition. I rushed to the hospital, only to find that I was too late. The grief was overwhelming, a void that seemed to consume everything, including my marriage. Adrian's lack of empathy during that time was the first crack in our once solid foundation. He didn't come to the hospital, citing urgent work commitments. I tried to understand, to justify his absence, but deep down, I knew something was amiss. As I navigated through the pain of losing my father, Adrian's support was conspicuously absent. His true colors began to show, his once endearing confidence turning into unbearable arrogance. Our conversations, once filled with laughter and dreams, now echoed with arguments and bitter words. "Alara, can't you see I'm under a lot of pressure at work?" Adrian would often say, dismissing my attempts to discuss our strained relationship. I tried to hold on, believing that this was just a phase, a hurdle we could overcome. But the man I married, the man who promised to stand by me through thick and thin, was slowly fading away, replaced by a stranger who wore his face. Tonight was different, though. Tonight his words were like a cold, sharp blade, cutting through any pretense of affection or respect. His disdain was clear, his regret for our marriage palpable. "You're older, Alara. You should be grateful that someone like me chose to marry you," Adrian sneered, his voice laced with contempt. The words hit me like a physical blow, leaving me breathless. The realization dawned on me, harsh and unyielding. The man I loved, the man I had built my life with, saw me as nothing more than a convenience, a mistake he regretted. I stood there silent, the weight of his words crushing me. But amidst the pain, a spark of something else flickered, anger, defiance, perhaps even a hint of liberation. I was more than the sum of my years, more than Adrian's condescending view of me. The night ended with Adrian storming off to our bedroom, leaving me alone with my thoughts. The silence of the house was a stark contrast to the turmoil within me. But as I sat there, a plan began to form, a path to reclaiming my life from the shadows of a love that had turned into something unrecognizable. The next morning dawned with a sense of purpose. As I prepared for the day, the resolve in my heart grew stronger. It was time to take a stand, to show Adrian that I was not the weak, older woman he thought he could belittle and discard. The stage was set, and I was ready to turn the tables. It was time for Adrian to see the true strength of the woman he had underestimated. The days following our heated argument felt like walking through a dense fog. Adrian's presence in our home turned into a constant reminder of the deepening chasm between us. His dismissive attitude, once an occasional irritation, had now become a daily occurrence. It was a Thursday evening when things escalated. I had just returned from a grueling day at work, hoping for a quiet night, but the moment I stepped in, I knew peace was a luxury I wouldn't have. "Alara, you're late again." Adrian's voice was cold, devoid of concern. "I had to attend a dinner alone because you couldn't make time." "I had an important meeting, Adrian. I told you this morning," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "That's your excuse for everything, isn't it?" "Your work, always your work," he retorted, his tone dripping with sarcasm. I felt a familiar surge of frustration. "What do you want me to do, Adrian? Quit my job to cater to your every whim?" His laugh was bitter. "Oh, please, you and your high-flying job. You think you're so important, don't you?" The conversation spiraled from there, each word a sharpened barb aimed to wound. Adrian's ability to twist my words left me reeling. His accusations were baseless, yet delivered with a conviction that made me question my own sanity. "Maybe I was wrong about you, Alara. Maybe you're not the woman I thought I married," he sneered. I couldn't help but laugh, a hollow sound that echoed off the walls. And who did you think you married, Adrian? A submissive wife who would bow to your every demand? He stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. Maybe I should have. At least she would have appreciated what I do for her. The audacity of his words left me speechless. The man I once saw as my partner, my equal, now stood before me as someone unrecognizable, someone who viewed our marriage as a transaction. As the night wore on, the realization sank in. This wasn't just a rough patch. This was a fundamental mismatch of values and respect. The man I married, who once looked at me with love, now gazed at me with disdain and entitlement. I lay awake that night, the echoes of our argument replaying in my mind. The more I thought, the clearer it became. I couldn't continue living this way. I needed to break free from the oppressive atmosphere that our home had become. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of clarity. It was time to start planning my escape from this toxic marriage. I needed to gather my strength, my resources, and most importantly, my dignity. As I left for work, I glanced back at the house, a place that once symbolized love and companionship. Now it stood as a monument to my misplaced trust and a relationship that had soured beyond repair. The battle lines were drawn, and I was ready to fight for my freedom. Adrian's reign of emotional tyranny was about to come to an end, and I was determined to emerge victorious. The tension in our house was like a thick fog, suffocating and relentless. Adrian's disdain had become more overt, his words more cutting. But it was on the eve of my father's first death anniversary that everything reached a boiling point. "I can't believe you expect me to attend this morbid gathering," Adrian said disdainfully as I prepared for the next day. "It's important to me, Adrian. It's about honoring my father's memory," I replied, my voice laced with a plea for understanding. "Your father, not mine. Why should I have to waste my time?" He scoffed, rolling his eyes. I felt a wave of anger surge through me. "It's not a waste of time to support your wife during a time of grief," Adrian snorted. "Oh, please. It's been a year, Alara. You need to move on. Besides, I have more important things to do." His words stung like a slap. "More important than your wife's feelings?" I shot back, my voice rising. He smirked. "Exactly. I'm glad you're finally understanding where your little family drama stands in the grand scheme of things." That was it, the final straw. My patience, worn thin by months of neglect and disrespect, finally shattered. "You're unbelievable, Adrian. You're selfish, heartless." He leaned in, his eyes cold. "That's rich coming from you, Alara. Always so wrapped up in your work, in your own world." I couldn't contain my fury. "At least I care about others, unlike you." Adrian laughed, a cruel, mocking sound. "Care? Is that what you call it? It's no wonder your father was always so disappointed in you." That lie, that unfounded accusation about my beloved father, was more than I could bear. "Get out," I hissed, my voice trembling with rage. "What?" Adrian's smirk faded, replaced by a look of surprise. "Get out of this house! I can't stand to look at you anymore!" I shouted, the words erupting from deep within me. For a moment, Adrian looked taken aback, but then his expression hardened. "Fine, if that's what you want. But remember, Alara, you're the one who's going to end up alone." With those parting words, he stormed out, slamming the door behind him. I stood there, shaking, a mix of anger, relief, and profound sadness washing over me. The house was eerily silent, the void left by Adrian's absence, both a balm and a reminder of what our marriage had become. I sank onto the couch, my thoughts a whirlwind of emotions. One thing was clear: I couldn't let Adrian get away with his behavior. It was time for him to learn that his actions had consequences. As I sat there, a plan began to form in my mind. I would not only leave Adrian, but I would also make sure he regretted the way he treated me. He thought he could demean me, abandon me in my time of need, and face no repercussions? He was sorely mistaken. I would start by securing my finances, ensuring I was in a strong position to leave. Then I would gather evidence of Adrian's emotional abuse, his neglect, and his infidelity, if my suspicions were correct. He wouldn't see it coming. He was too arrogant to ever imagine I could be a threat. But I was more than he bargained for. I was Alara, and I was done being the victim. It was time for Adrian to pay for his cruelty, and I was just the person to ensure he did. The morning of my father's death anniversary dawned, a somber reminder of the loss that still echoed in my heart. Adrian had not returned since our explosive argument, and his absence on this significant day only deepened the wound. As I dressed in black, preparing to honor my father's memory, my phone buzzed. It was Adrian, his name on the screen reigniting a flicker of anger. I answered, bracing myself. Alara, I've decided I won't be attending the memorial today. Adrian's voice was casual, almost indifferent. You decided? It's my father's anniversary, Adrian. I couldn't keep the hurt out of my voice. Yeah, well, I have a golf game with some clients. It's important for my career, he replied nonchalantly. I felt a bitter laugh escape my lips. Your career? Is that all you ever think about? What's that supposed to mean? You're one to talk about obsession with work, he retorted. This isn't about work, Adrian. This is about being there for your wife when she needs you, I shot back, my voice trembling with emotion. Adrian sighed audibly. Look, Alara, we both know you're capable of handling this on your own. You always do. That's not the point, I exclaimed, feeling a surge of frustration. Whatever, Alara, I don't have time for this. I need to get ready, he said, dismissive as ever. The call ended abruptly, leaving me standing in silence, the weight of his absence heavier than ever. It was in that moment, surrounded by the cold walls of our home, that I realized Adrian would never change. He was a man consumed by his own needs, incapable of empathy or support. As I made my way to the memorial service, memories of my father flooded my mind. He had always been my pillar of strength, a guiding light through my darkest days. Now, in his absence, I found myself facing one of my greatest challenges alone. Throughout the service, I put on a brave face, but inside I was seething with a mix of grief and anger. Adrian's blatant disregard for my feelings was a betrayal I couldn't forgive. He had promised to be my partner, to stand by me in good times and bad. Yet here I was, mourning alone, while he played golf. The ride home was a blur, my mind racing with thoughts of revenge. Adrian had pushed me too far, and it was time he faced the consequences of his selfishness. I began to lay the groundwork for my plan. First, I would secure my financial independence, ensuring I had the resources to leave Adrian for good. Then, I would gather evidence of his neglect and emotional abuse, building a case that would leave him with nothing. As I walked through the door of our now loveless home, I felt a newfound sense of determination. Adrian had underestimated me, mistaking my patience for weakness, but he was about to learn just how strong Alara could be. The game had changed, and I was no longer playing by his rules. It was time for Adrian to face the music, and I would be the one conducting the orchestra. The days following the memorial were a blur of silent preparation and cold determination. I was like a chess player, meticulously planning each move. My first step was to secure my financial independence, a task I approached with a newfound sense of urgency. It was during this time that I made a discovery that would escalate my plans. I found divorce papers on Adrian's desk, already signed. His boldness in preparing for a divorce without even a discussion was a clear message of his disregard for our marriage. Staring at the papers, a mixture of shock and relief washed over me. This was the point of no return. I called Adrian, needing to confront him about this final betrayal. Adrian, I found the divorce papers. Is this how you tell me it's over? My voice was steady, masking the turmoil inside. His laughter chilled me. Oh, you found them? Saves me the trouble of bringing it up. I thought it's what you wanted, given how things have been. His casual dismissal of our marriage ignited a fire within me. You think you can just discard me like this after everything? It's not about discarding, Alara. It's about moving on. I need someone who supports my career, not someone who's always competing with me, he replied, his tone laced with arrogance. The irony of his words was almost laughable. Support your career? What about my career, Adrian? What about supporting me? Adrian scoffed. Your career. Please, Alara, it's always been about you and your achievements. I'm tired of being in your shadow. His words stung, but I refused to let him see my pain. You're delusional, Adrian. You've always been the one in the spotlight. I was just the one behind you, cleaning up your messes. There was a pause, and then Adrian's voice turned cold. Well, Alara, if you're not happy with the divorce, feel free to contest it. But I'm done here. I need a fresh start, with someone who appreciates me. The call ended, leaving me standing in a room filled with memories of a love that had turned sour. But amidst the heartache, there was a sense of liberation. Adrian had shown his true colors, and now it was time for me to paint a new picture of my life. one where he had no place. I would take the divorce papers to the family court, but not before ensuring I had everything in place to leave Adrian with nothing but his arrogance. He thought he could control me, break me down, but he was about to learn that Alara was not a woman to be underestimated. The revenge I planned was not just for me, but for every moment of neglect, every insult, every time he made me feel unworthy. Adrian would regret the day he underestimated the strength of the woman he married. As I set my plan into motion, a sense of empowerment enveloped me. I was no longer the passive wife, bending to Adrian's will. I was a force to be reckoned with, and my storm was just beginning. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity. I meticulously gathered evidence of Adrian's neglect and emotional abuse, documenting each instance with precision. It was a grim task, but necessary for the battle ahead. As I prepared for my next move, fate intervened in an unexpected way. I learned through mutual acquaintances that Adrian's career was faltering. His overconfidence had led to several critical mistakes at work, and his reputation was suffering. This news, though not surprising, gave me an added edge. Adrian's world was starting to crumble, and I was ready to give it the final push. Then came the day of reckoning. I confronted Adrian one last time, armed with the evidence I had gathered and a steely resolve. "Adrian, we need to talk," I said, my voice calm but firm as he walked through the door. He glanced at me, annoyance flickering in his eyes. "What now, Alara? I'm tired and not in the mood for another one of your lectures." "It's not a lecture. It's about the divorce," I replied, holding up the papers. He smirked. "Finally ready to sign them? Decided to give up?" I met his gaze, unwavering. "No, Adrian, I'm not giving up. I'm fighting back." Confusion replaced his smug expression. "What are you talking about?" "I've gathered evidence, Adrian, evidence of all the times you neglected me, emotionally abused me. I've documented everything, and I know about your failing career." Adrian's face turned pale, his facade cracking. "You wouldn't dare. You think anyone will believe you?" "They will when they see the evidence. And let's not forget your tarnished reputation at work. How do you think that will play out in court?" I countered. For the first time I saw fear in Adrian's eyes. He had underestimated me, thinking I would quietly retreat. But I was no longer the woman he thought he could control. "Alara, you can't do this to me. I'll lose everything," he stammered, the arrogance gone from his voice. "That's the point, Adrian. You took me for granted, treated me like I was nothing. Now, you'll see what it's like to have nothing," I said, the words tasting of sweet revenge. Adrian's defeat was evident in his slumped shoulders and defeated gaze. He had lost not just the battle, but the war. As I watched him leave, a sense of triumph mixed with sadness washed over me. This was not the life I had envisioned, but it was the one I was left with. Adrian had forced my hand, and I had played it to the best of my ability. The days that followed were filled with legal proceedings and negotiations. But with my evidence in Adrian's crumbling professional life, the advantage was mine. The divorce was finalized in my favor, leaving me with a sense of closure and a fresh start. Adrian, on the other hand, was left to face the consequences of his actions. His career continued its downward spiral, and he was left with little to his name. It was a harsh outcome, but one he had brought upon himself. As I closed this painful chapter of my life, I looked forward to the future with a sense of hope. I had emerged from the ashes of a broken marriage stronger and more determined. Adrian's betrayal had been painful, but it had also been the catalyst for my transformation. I was no longer the woman he had tried to break. I was Alara, reborn and ready to take on the world. In the aftermath of the divorce, my life took on a new rhythm, one that was entirely my own. The shadow of Adrian's presence had dissipated, leaving me with a newfound sense of freedom. I embraced this change, allowing it to reshape my world. It was during this period of transformation that an opportunity arose, an offer to work at our company's overseas headquarters. It was the kind of opportunity I had dreamed of, but had previously set aside for the sake of my marriage. Now nothing held me back. As I prepared for this new chapter, Adrian reached out, his voice a mixture of desperation and false contrition. "Alara, can we talk? I've been thinking maybe we rushed into this divorce." I couldn't help but feel a bitter satisfaction at his words. "Rushed, Adrian? After everything you've done? After everything you said?" He hesitated, then continued. I know I made mistakes, but we can start over. I've changed. The claim was laughable. Changed? Adrian, you only reach out now because you've seen the consequences of your actions. You haven't changed. You're just scared of being alone. His voice cracked, a sign of his crumbling facade. Alara, please? I need you. I've lost my job, my reputation. I have nothing. The irony of his plea was not lost on me. You need me, or do you need someone to fall back on? I'm not your safety net, Adrian. I'm moving on to a better life, a life I put on hold for you. There was silence on the other end, and then a defeated sigh. So this is really it, then? Yes, Adrian. This is it. Goodbye. I ended the call, a final full stop to our conversation and to our relationship. As I boarded the plane to my new destination, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey I had undertaken. From a woman who had loved and trusted to one betrayed and belittled, and now to a woman reborn with strength and independence. The flight was long, but it gave me time to contemplate. I thought about my father, how he had always encouraged me to pursue my dreams. In a way, this move was a tribute to him, a realization of the aspirations he had always supported. Upon arrival, the new environment was a breath of fresh air. The culture, the people, the work, it was all invigorating. I threw myself into my new role with a passion I hadn't felt in years. My colleagues were welcoming, and I quickly established myself as a valuable member of the team. News from back home trickled in. Adrian's life continued its downward spiral, a path he had chosen through his actions. There was no joy in his misfortune, only a stark reminder of the consequences of selfishness and arrogance. As I settled into my new life, I found a sense of peace that had been missing for years. The scars of the past remained, but they were no longer painful. They were reminders of what I had overcome, symbols of my resilience. I occasionally thought of Adrian, wondering if he ever realized the full extent of his mistakes. But those thoughts were fleeting, mere echoes of a past life. My days were filled with new challenges and adventures. I explored my new city, made new friends, and even began to dabble in hobbies I had long neglected. Life was vibrant, full of possibilities. As I looked out at the city skyline one evening, a sense of contentment washed over me. I had faced adversity, fought for my dignity, and emerged victorious. I was Alara, no longer defined by the shadows of a failed marriage, but by the bright promise of a future I had reclaimed. This was not just a new chapter, it was a whole new book. And I was the author, ready to write a story of success, happiness, and true fulfillment.
Hey sis, why didn't you come to Mom's funeral? What? I can't believe you didn't even show up to Mom's funeral. It's shocking and heartless. I never thought my own sister could do something like that. I was taken aback by my sister's sudden phone call. Our mother had passed away 3 years ago, and we held a proper funeral then. I couldn't understand what she was referring to. I'm married now with children of my own. My husband and I both work, but we make sure to give our children extra love and attention so they don't feel neglected. My husband is a great partner in housework and childcare, and I'm proud of the family we've built. I'm determined not to let my children go through what I did growing up. Our parents divorced when I was in elementary school after my mother had an affair. My father found out about it because I told him. People often assume children will side with their mother, but I didn't. My mother was far from the nurturing figure everyone imagines. I never felt loved by her. She showed favoritism towards my younger sister, while I was burdened with the household chores. It wasn't just expected, it was forced on me. My mother resented me for revealing her affair and made my life a misery because of it. I still carry the emotional and physical scars she inflicted. When the divorce was finalized, my mother took my sister and left. Thankfully, my father and grandparents ensured I maintained contact with my sister, and we continued to meet regularly. However, as I entered middle school, our visits became less frequent. At first, I thought it was just a matter of adult responsibilities, but it seemed my sister was deliberately avoiding me. After she turned down my invitation several times, I asked if I had done something to upset her. My sister explained that our mother had told her the collapse of our family was my fault. In their eyes, I was the one who betrayed the family. My sister believed that if she continued to see me, she would risk being cast aside as well. She found it too difficult to contact or meet me behind our mother's back and asked me to stop trying. I told my sister that our mother was the one who betrayed us first by cheating on our father and breaking up our family. Although my sister was aware of our mother's affair, she still blamed me for telling our father. Despite understanding the situation, she remained firm in her view that I was the traitor since she had to live with our mother. She wouldn't accept my perspective, insisting it was my fault for not turning a blind eye. While all this was happening, my father remarried, and I gained a stepmother. Initially, the adjustment was challenging, but my stepmother worked hard to become the mother figure I had been missing. Appreciating her efforts, I decided to embrace my new family and cherish my stepmother. Over time, I stopped trying to reach out to my sister, and we gradually lost touch. I had no lingering attachment to my biological mother, who had favored my sister. I was able to attend college and secure a job, preparing to give back to my father and stepmother. But then, just as I thought I could start repaying them, my father tragically passed away in an accident. Although we had grown distant, I notified my sister about our father's passing, reminding her that he was still her father. Instead of expressing sympathy, she scoffed and said, "Serves him right," followed by a mocking laugh. I thought she might attend the funeral, but neither my biological mother nor my sister made an appearance. Their absence was surprising, but they both showed up later when the time came to discuss my father's inheritance. Their sudden arrival caught everyone off guard, especially given their flashy and overly elaborate attire and makeup. They looked so different from the mother and sister I once knew that they were hardly recognizable. "At least let us know when the inheritance meeting is," they demanded. We had to check every day because we didn't know when it would happen. My mother claimed she had been waiting nearby since the funeral ended, eager to join the inheritance discussions. It seemed more appropriate for her to attend the funeral instead, especially since the meeting was scheduled for the day immediately following the funeral. "Because of what you said, my poor daughter had to endure so much. You're going to give us a fair share, right?" Although they divorced and lived separately, the children still have inheritance rights. I never intended to deny that. My father's personal estate wasn't substantial enough to be widely distributed among the family. I can support myself through my job, and my stepmother is young enough to continue working. She seems inclined to work for a while longer, so even if I handed over my father's estate to my biological mother, my stepmother wouldn't be financially strained. To avoid further disputes, I decided to forgo my claim to my father's inheritance. What a fool! He made such a big deal out of a minor affair and pushed for a divorce. I agreed because staying with such a narrow-minded man was stifling. It wasn't our dad who left Mom, it was Mom who left our miserly dad. Poor you, having to grow up with such a father. My mother mocked and belittled my late father, while my sister joined in, laughing harshly and echoing her criticism. My sister went as far as to insult me, suggesting it was pathetic that I was raised by a father who had been abandoned. Neither of them showed any empathy or understanding for the sorrow and loss my father faced after being betrayed. Say whatever you want about me, but please respect our father's memory. What? The traitor speaks. You're the cause of all our troubles. And what about that drab appearance? You look older than your age, almost like Mom. With that kind of look, you probably don't have a boyfriend. If you can't attract a man, what use is it to be a woman? If you don't think that matters, you're seriously lacking as a woman. After a heated argument, my mother and sister told me to never contact them again and left abruptly. I couldn't bring myself to feel anger or disappointment toward them. Their inability to consider anyone else's perspective and their rigid self-centeredness left me feeling nothing but a deep emptiness. In that moment, I cut them out of my life completely. After they left, there was a period of quiet, but then a cough from someone brought me back to the present, and the inheritance was divided solemnly. Years later, my stepmother inherited the house my father left behind, and I continued living there. I sensed that she was thinking of me, even though I was now an adult. She tried to be a mother figure for me, and her care brought me happiness. But then she fell ill and was hospitalized. "I'm sorry I didn't ask you to live with me just so you could take care of me," she said. "I understand, but even though we live separately, I would have cared for you during your hospital stay, so there's no need to apologize." I visited the hospital to care for my stepmother whenever I could take a break from work. I didn't want any regrets like I had when my father was ill. Perhaps it was a form of self-satisfaction. Her time was limited, and I wanted to spend as much of it with her as possible. Throughout this difficult time, one man stood by me. Before my stepmother's illness was discovered, we had been planning our wedding. However, just as we were about to finalize our plans, we found out about her illness. I suggested postponing the marriage, but my partner felt it would be better to provide my stepmother with the reassurance of our commitment, and his presence proved invaluable to me. When the moment was right, I introduced him to my stepmother. He told her, "I'm excited for us to share our lives together, the three of us." His words and support meant the world to me. He added, "I have to see you in your wedding dress for your father's sake." This seemed to be her greatest joy, and she held on longer than expected. But a few days after our wedding, she passed away, joining my father in rest. My stepmother was financially secure, and I inherited a significant sum. With what she left behind, 3 years later I was able to build a happy family. However, my husband and I agreed from the start of our marriage to continue working and live within our means without depending on the inheritance. Today, like any other day, I went to work and received a call on my personal phone from an unfamiliar number. Assuming it was a sales call, I didn't pick up. But the calls kept coming, one after another. I thought maybe someone was repeatedly dialing my number by mistake. At the end of the day, I decided to answer, and to my surprise, it was my estranged sister. "Finally, where were you?" "What do you mean? How could you forget our mother's funeral?" "Of course." She sounded like she was crying heavily. "What are you talking about? Our mother's funeral happened 3 years ago." "Huh." There was a brief silence, and then she continued angrily. "Maybe your stepmother died too. I'm talking about our real mother, and calling someone unrelated to you mother is just wrong." I found her tone irritating, but I tried to set it aside, understanding that the loss of her mother was likely a significant shock for my sister. For me, my stepmother was my real mother. She married a man with a child and instantly became a parent to a middle schooler. It wasn't until I had my own family that I fully grasped the challenges she faced. I believe the experience of nurturing a life within oneself is a time for a mother to grow in self-awareness and dedication. Of course, there are many ways to create a loving family, such as through adoption, without a biological connection. However, stepping into the role of a mother to a middle schooler unexpectedly is no easy feat, no matter how you look at it. Reflecting on my stepmother's efforts and concerns, all I feel is deep gratitude. I am eternally grateful to the stepmother who raised me. She is the model of the mother I aspire to be. Biological connections mean little. My sister's so-called real mother never even acknowledged my existence. When I think of the word mother, it's my stepmother who comes to mind, not my birth mother. At first, I was confused. I had assumed she was talking about my stepmother. Once I understood what my sister meant, I responded with a lack of interest. "Oh, I see." I could hear what sounded like her hitting or stomping on something in frustration over the phone. "What?" That indifferent tone. "The funeral has already happened. How could you not attend your own relative's funeral? You're so heartless. You must not have a drop of compassion." Though she raised a valid point, my sister had also skipped our relative's funeral. Our late father loved both of us dearly, and he was far more caring than our mother. In fact, neither my birth mother nor my sister attended our father's funeral, yet they took his inheritance and spoke ill of him. If you ask me, it seems more like they're the ones who lack compassion. Indifferent? Weren't you the one who said we were strangers? Huh. You got involved in the inheritance despite skipping Dad's funeral, right? Weren't you the one who told me never to contact you again? And I only just found out about our mother's death. After a pause, my sister murmured a small, "Oh, I forgot to tell you about the funeral." "Well, I'm glad you remembered. I'm going to waive any inheritance related to that woman, so you can do as you wish with it." With that, I ended the call. However, my sister, perhaps not fully grasping the situation, contacted me again a few days later. "Katie, I need your help. It seems our mother hinted at marriage to several men. Isn't that considered marriage fraud? They're threatening to sue me for compensation if I don't comply. I'm getting bombarded with demands. Just pay them. If I could, I wouldn't be calling you." Didn't you hear me say several men? It's not just one or two. Some of them seem really shady too. That's unfortunate, but let's not forget, you were the one who told me not to contact you again. Plus, it was no secret that our mother had a habit of being involved with men since she cheated on our father while he was still alive. In fact, it wasn't just one affair. If it had been a single lapse in judgment, our father might have considered forgiving her. Only he would truly know the situation. It's possible that I couldn't accept our mother, given her multiple relationships while raising us. My father tried to adopt my sister multiple times with the help of a lawyer, but I was informed that my sister didn't want to leave. I had to let go of the idea. My sister chose to stay with our irresponsible mother, even though she witnessed her behavior firsthand. Even if our mother had left a strong impression on her, my sister's decision to remain with her, despite the shared memories we have, speaks to her own responsibility as an adult. Lahats. You know you were the one calling me a traitor all this time. I don't need a sister who labels me that way. You're the one who declared us strangers first. So don't show up now and pretend we're family. It's unwelcome. Don't ever contact me again. We're strangers, remember. I ended the call without waiting for my sister's response. I blocked her number and went back to my family. Later, I got a call from my biological mother's relatives. I thought the matter was settled, but they called to apologize for the disrespect my mother and sister had shown me. I decided to hear them out. They acknowledged how poorly my mother had treated me and expressed their shock at her audacity in trying to claim my father's inheritance after we had been separated. They offered sincere apologies for allowing her visit at a time when I was still grieving. But that's all in the past now, I said. Then they brought up my sister. Apparently, she was following in our mother's footsteps and acting irresponsibly with men. Since her return, they had repeatedly warned her that she would face consequences if she didn't change her behavior. Instead of heeding their advice, my sister had become just like our mother, and they could no longer manage her. Mother got mixed up with unsavory men, and my sister was being coerced into participating in criminal activities. Feeling trapped, my sister was also involved with multiple men simultaneously, leading to numerous heated conflicts. Reaching their limit, the relatives warned that they would sever their relationship if she didn't listen to their advice. And then our mother passed away. Given that my sister is an adult, the relatives decided to proceed with cutting ties. But right after our mother's funeral, another conflict erupted. Since then, her whereabouts have been unclear. They advised me to avoid any involvement with her going forward. I had no intention of getting involved, but I can't help feeling sorry for her, given she may have been coerced into criminal activities. Still, there should have been a chance for her to make amends. If she didn't take that opportunity, then it's on her. That's how I've chosen to see it. After ending the call, I heard my husband and children laughing joyfully in another room. I want to safeguard this family, so I've resolved to live my life using my biological mother and sister as cautionary examples. My ex-husband Tom's cruel words still echo in my mind. I shouldn't have married an old hag like you. Younger women are definitely better. I can't even walk with you in public. You're so embarrassing. If I could, I'd go back in time and start my life over. He said these things to me a decade ago. I'm Elizabeth, and I'm 48 years old now. I was 33 when I married Tom, who was 5 years younger than me. We met at the hospital where I worked as a nurse, and he was a new doctor fresh out of his residency. Tom frequently sought my advice, and his genuine curiosity was endearing, so I found myself drawn to him despite our age difference. After 2 years of dating, we married. Despite some initial worries about the age gap, Tom seemed unconcerned, so I put my doubts aside. However, after 5 years of marriage, Tom's demeanor changed. He began verbally abusing me, constantly voicing his regret over not marrying a younger woman. His overly friendly interactions with young nurses at work upset me, but I stayed quiet, not wanting to cause a scene in the hospital. Tom's infidelity was revealed one day, and the other woman was a former patient of his, someone I had never met because we worked in different departments. She was 10 years younger than me and expecting his child. Tom's casual attitude toward his betrayal was shocking. With an old lady like you, it's no wonder we couldn't have kids. My girlfriend is carrying my child, he said with a laugh. I couldn't stay in such a toxic relationship any longer and agreed to a divorce. When I told Tom and his girlfriend I would seek alimony, Tom reacted with anger. I was married to an old hag like you for 5 years, and you want alimony. I should be the one getting paid. Who would pay you anything? His outburst surprised me, revealing he had never considered he might owe me financial support despite his affair. Tom's father even called me, dismissing his son's behavior and suggesting it was natural for a young man to pursue a younger woman. I was appalled by their complete lack of accountability. Tom adamantly refused to pay, leaving me no choice but to consult a lawyer. I couldn't just walk away quietly after his infidelity and verbal abuse. The lawyer assured me I had the right to seek alimony, and I entrusted them with the process. It's often said that divorce is more challenging than marriage, and I certainly found that to be true. Thanks to my lawyer's efforts, I received a fair alimony settlement, ended the lease on our shared apartment, and began living on my own. I changed my last name back to my maiden name, Britton. One positive outcome was that Tom transferred to a different hospital. "I wouldn't want to work with a greedy old hag like you," he remarked as a final jab. Though he quickly secured a new position at another hospital, likely in anticipation of backlash from marrying his mistress, it was clear he had planned his next move carefully. Despite everything, rumors about me circulated, suggesting I had been cast aside by my younger husband. This constant gossip weighed heavily on me and made me feel paranoid. Eventually, I left my job at the hospital. After some time aimlessly drifting, I decided to pursue work again, as I thrive on staying busy and active. Luckily, I found a small maternity clinic just 2 stops away from my new home that was looking for nurses, and I was hired immediately. Though the hospital was small with few doctors and nurses, it was a pleasant work environment where everyone got along well with patients. "Miss Britton, you have a keen eye and the patients adore you. We're fortunate to have you," they would tell me. But my peace didn't last long. A pregnant woman was referred to us from another hospital, and I immediately recognized her name, Sarah Evans. She shared the same last name as Tom's mistress. Curious, I checked her husband's name, Tom Evans, a doctor. Without a doubt, it was my ex-husband Tom. His new hospital lacked an obstetrics department, so they had been referred to us. Since I had resumed my maiden name and we had never met in person, she did not recognize me, but I never expected our paths to cross here. I hesitated to reveal to anyone that she was my ex-husband's mistress, so I kept the information to myself for a few days. Then one day, Tom accompanied his wife to her checkup. His eyes widened in shock when he saw me. Clearly, he had not anticipated running into me here, and I certainly had no desire to see him either. "What are you doing here?" Tom questioned me, and his wife quickly realized who I was. "Wait, is she here to harass us?" she asked, casting an accusatory glance in my direction. "Of course not," I replied. "I was here first." I had no idea Tom had moved near this hospital, but Tom refused to hear my side of the story and accused me of following them to cause trouble. "You're stalking me, aren't you?" he shouted. "Don't be absurd." "Why would I do that? You squeezed money out of me because you're old and got dumped," he yelled, causing everyone in the examination room to learn about our relationship. The stares of the onlookers made me feel uncomfortable, even though I knew Tom was in the wrong. His wife escalated the situation by feigning distress, saying, "Oh, I'm scared. I feel like I've been targeted ever since I came here. What if something happens to my baby?" Tom took this opportunity to demand, "Please keep her away from my wife." The doctor in charge then asked me to leave the examination room, likely just trying to defuse the situation. I understood the need to prioritize patients, but I felt deeply humiliated. I didn't want to be there either, especially because I didn't want the details of my divorce to be exposed. To make matters worse, Tom's wife continued to berate me every time she came to the hospital. Although everyone knew I wasn't to blame, they chose to remain silent to avoid upsetting her or interfering with her pregnancy. As a result, the work environment grew increasingly uncomfortable. With more than 6 months until her due date, I couldn't imagine enduring the tense atmosphere for that long. Although it was a good workplace, I decided to resign from the hospital. "It's a shame, but there's nothing we can do," the director said, looking somewhat relieved. Though I knew I had done nothing wrong, it felt as if I were being unjustly penalized. Worn out from the ordeal, I decided not to search for a new hospital job and instead returned to my parents' rural home. They welcomed me without saying a word. Initially, I found it difficult to do anything, but the thought of remaining idle at home made me feel guilty. So I took a part-time job at a nearby supermarket. Working outside of a hospital was a new experience, but it offered a refreshing change of pace. I had always loved being a nurse, and it brought me great fulfillment, but the constant pressure and responsibility for people's lives were a heavy burden. Stepping away from that environment was a relief for my emotional well-being. 3 years after moving back home, I was offered a full-time position at the supermarket. My hard work had been recognized, and I was genuinely pleased to accept the offer. 4 years later, a matchmaker approached me. Would you consider an arranged marriage? They asked, catching me off guard. Excuse me? I have just the right person in mind for you, the store manager announced one day. At 45, I had no plans to remarry, so I politely declined. However, the manager was persistent. The potential match is a 47-year-old divorcee, just like you, who went through a similar divorce due to infidelity 20 years ago. The manager explained. In the end, I agreed to at least meet the person. Given our ages, we decided to meet directly without involving any intermediaries. When I arrived at the agreed-upon restaurant, my date was already there waiting. As I walked into the room, he stood up quickly to greet me and accidentally bumped his forehead against the table in his haste to bow politely. Ow! He raised his face, which had turned a deep shade of red. I couldn't help but laugh at the comical situation. It was a refreshingly lighthearted start to our meeting. Hi, I'm James. Thank you for coming today. Nice to meet you. I'm Elizabeth, I responded. Thanks to his endearing mishap, we quickly felt at ease with one another. As James shared his story, I discovered he had fallen in love with me at first sight when he visited our supermarket during a business trip. He had arranged the meeting after discussing it with his college senior, who happened to be the manager of our main store. I hope we can pursue a serious relationship, James said earnestly. Although I had initially planned to decline any romantic involvement, I found myself wanting to see him again instead. After dating for 6 months, we decided to get married. My parents were delighted with James and his thoughtful nature, and they were truly happy for us. Living with a husband who always puts me first has been a blessing. Since we were both older, we had agreed not to have children and instead hoped to enjoy a peaceful life together. But when I turned 48, my health began to decline. A visit to the hospital revealed an unexpected surprise. I was pregnant. I never thought I would conceive at my age, and my initial symptoms did not suggest morning sickness. My husband seemed just as taken aback. It looks like there's a baby on the way, I told him. His immediate response was, that's wonderful. So who's the lucky one? Do I know them? Yes, you know them very well. They're standing right in front of you, I said with a smile. What? I'm the one who's pregnant? He asked, astonished. At my words, my husband looked perplexed and remained silent for a moment. I couldn't help but think, of course, this is the reaction I expected. He turned his gaze to my belly, our baby. I nodded, and his eyes grew even wider in surprise. The news was so unexpected that it clearly took him a moment to process. I mean, even I didn't see this coming. So we're going to be mom and dad. Looks like it, I confirmed. Really? Whoa. My husband, taken aback by the unexpected news, embraced me with excitement. It's unbelievable. A miracle, a miracle. Is it okay for me to give birth? I hadn't considered not going through with the pregnancy, but I was aware of the potential complications given my age. Even the hospital staff asked me, what do you want to do? I understood the risks of having a baby at an older age for both the mother and child. I anticipated that not everyone around me would be supportive, and some might question my decision. Concerns about raising a child at this stage of life also weighed on my mind. Despite these fears, I couldn't imagine ending the life growing within me. What are you talking about? Of course, yes, my husband quickly responded. His enthusiasm brought me happiness, but after some time, he began to express concern for my health. It's easy to imagine the potential challenges even for someone as supportive as my husband. We talked extensively and consulted with our doctor before ultimately deciding to move forward with the pregnancy. While our parents were initially surprised and concerned, they were also genuinely happy for us. We chose to give birth at a large, well-equipped hospital to ensure the best care. The doctor overseeing the pregnancy was kind and reassuring, and on the day of one of my checkups, an internist was scheduled to be present alongside the obstetrician as a precaution. My husband was supposed to accompany me, but he had an unavoidable work commitment, so I attended the appointment alone. To my astonishment, my ex-husband Tom was also at the hospital. I never expected to encounter him in a setting like this. Wait, seriously? You the 48-year-old pregnant woman? Tom exclaimed with a laugh. Having a baby at that age is unbelievable. The obstetrician and nurse in the room exchanged confused glances, but Tom seemed unfazed. You have no right to speak to me like that. I'm genuinely concerned about you, getting pregnant at your age. It's not appropriate. You're already an anxious woman. Are you even qualified to be a doctor? Why are you acting so superior? You should know that most patients here are affluent. Do you not realize you're making a fool of yourself? Excuse me, Dr. Evans, I'll be leaving. I wouldn't want to give birth in a hospital with a doctor like you. Fine, leave. Dr. Evans, that woman is the wife of the Miles Group heir, who has made substantial donations to our hospital. What? Dr. Evans, you might not have realized since you're new to our hospital. No, but she's I have no relation to you. Nevertheless, your comments were inappropriate, as Mrs. Miles pointed out. I can't believe a doctor would say such a thing. At that moment, my husband walked in. Sorry I'm late. My wife has been an immense help to you. He'd immediately noticed my anger, and Tom turned pale, realizing something was amiss. Is there a problem? This man, Dr. Evans, just told me that giving birth at 48 is disgusting. What? My usually gentle husband's expression hardened in an instant when he heard my words. Since I mentioned Dr. Evans by name, he likely pieced together that the man in question was my ex-husband. I had shared details of my previous marriage with him, including Tom's name and occupation. Are you Dr. Evans? You insulted my wife, didn't you? Well, that's... What kind of hospital allows a doctor to insult a patient? I can't trust this place with my wife and our unborn child. As soon as my husband finished speaking, the nurse who had left earlier returned with the hospital director. I was informed there had been some disrespect. Director, we came to this hospital on my father's recommendation, but I can't believe a doctor like this is on staff here. It seems we chosen the wrong hospital. I'm deeply sorry, that's not accurate. This individual is not a member of our medical staff. What? I just terminated his employment. Director, what? I was unaware of his behavior until now. I only hired him as a favor to a friend. We cannot tolerate a doctor who speaks in such a derogatory manner. He will not be practicing here any longer. Wait, Director, what do you mean? Quiet, leave immediately and do not return to our hospital. Upon hearing the director's decree, Tom, who protested with no, why, was escorted out of the hallway by the obstetrician. The director offered profuse apologies, leaving us feeling sympathetic toward him. After regaining our composure, we resumed our seats, but my husband's anger lingered. Did you only fire him because of my father's donations to the hospital? If not, would you allow such a doctor to continue working here? The director shook his head in disbelief. It appeared that Tom had only been working at the hospital for a week. Tom's father, who was a classmate of the hospital director, had asked the director to hire his son after a recent reunion. The director had no idea Tom would behave in such a manner and offered a sincere apology. Not all the doctors at this hospital are like Tom. In fact, our obstetrician is a skilled and reputable physician. If it weren't for Tom, I would have preferred to give birth here, I explained, and my husband agreed. My father-in-law is the president of a major company with branches nationwide, donating a portion of their profits to medical and welfare facilities. He had generously contributed to this hospital because my mother-in-law received treatment for a serious illness here when she was young. As a result, my father-in-law recommended this hospital for my childbirth. A few days later, Tom reached out to us, pleading for us to intervene with the director and have him reinstated. Surely, if you asked, they might reconsider, right? It became apparent that Tom had a history of angering patients with his arrogant demeanor and had been repeatedly moving from one hospital to another. It was frustrating to see him repeating the same mistakes time and again. Despite warnings from his father, my ex-father-in-law, that there would be dire consequences if he were fired again, Tom seemed unable to learn from his actions. I couldn't help but wonder if my ex-father-in-law's leniency had contributed to Tom's behavior. When the call came, my husband was by my side. He took the phone from me and firmly warned Tom that if he ever attempted to contact us again or came near me, he would report him to the police for harassment. It seemed that Tom took this threat seriously, as he never called again. A while later, on our way home from the hospital, we stopped at a convenience store and saw Tom working there. It appeared that no other hospital would hire him anymore. He was visibly upset and told us that his wife and child had left him, but I felt no sympathy. I decided to avoid that convenience store from then on. The next year, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She is truly a delight, and I am committed to raising her with love and care. My husband has been enamored with our daughter since the moment she was born and is showing signs of becoming a very doting father. I'll need to keep an eye on him to make sure he doesn't spoil her too much. The entire house feels gloomy because someone stays in bed all day, unable to care for herself. It's frustrating to watch her sleep away the hours, and I can't help but wonder how long this will continue. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law often criticize me, saying, "Drew, it doesn't matter if Tom is married or not. Your presence doesn't change anything since you don't contribute." My father-in-law echoes their sentiments, saying, "I'm Jane Brown, 32 years old, and I've been married for 5 years. My father passed away due to illness when I was in high school, and my mother followed not long after I got married. I have loved drawing since I was young and aspired to become a picture book artist. After finishing high school, I attended design school and began working as an illustrator at a small design firm. My husband worked for an advertising agency, and we met when he approached me to illustrate a character for a campaign. After 2 years of dating, we decided to get married. My sister-in-law also lived with my in-laws, and after we got married, we moved in with them. I transitioned to freelancing as an illustrator and started working from home with their support. I aimed to be a supportive wife and dedicated myself to housework, which wasn't difficult since my mother-in-law didn't care for it and left the tasks up to me. She gave me the freedom to manage the home as I saw fit. My sister-in-law, on the other hand, showed little interest in household chores. She often went out for drinks and dinners with her friends and colleagues, so we rarely shared meals. Yet we coexisted peacefully. However, 3 years ago, my life took a dramatic turn when I fell down a flight of stairs at a train station and suffered serious injuries. The accident left me with a spinal injury resulting in paralysis of my lower body. Initially, the shock was overwhelming, but as time has gone by, I've adapted to this new reality. My in-laws were attentive and supportive when the injury first occurred, though they likely didn't anticipate that I would never regain the ability to walk. As 3 years passed, significant changes occurred. My sister-in-law married and moved up 2 years ago, perhaps to the relief of my in-laws, who might have hoped for more peace. Yet, since then, their patience with my presence seems to have worn thin. I find myself nearly confined to bed now. Understanding the strain it would put on my parents, I knew relying solely on them wasn't feasible. The layout of my in-laws' old house doesn't accommodate a wheelchair, leaving me confined to my bed, unable to move without it. Thankfully, I had been working from home prior to the accident, a blessing as my upper body remains unaffected, allowing me to continue working. My care is now managed by a helper and a housekeeper who assist me daily. While if I lived alone, a helper could handle cleaning and laundry with family around, this isn't feasible. Though a helper can offer physical assistance, my husband's work commitments prevent him from providing the care I need. Despite my own good spirits, neither my mother-in-law nor my father-in-law, who recently retired, are able to provide the level of care required. According to guidelines, home helpers aren't expected to assist if healthy family members are present and not working, covering tasks like cleaning, laundry, and shopping. Initially, my in-laws would pitch in while taking care of their own chores, but over time, they stopped helping altogether. I understand that my mother-in-law, who has always disliked housework, found it bothersome to take on my tasks. My husband was attentive at first, but now he barely speaks to me. He dismisses my needs, saying, "There's nothing to help with. I have my own job to focus on, and caregiving isn't a man's responsibility." Though my in-laws' lack of support doesn't automatically permit the helpers to assist me according to regulations, one helper, concerned about my situation, introduced me to our housekeeper. My in-laws voiced their disapproval of hiring a housekeeper, calling it wasteful and extravagant. However, I have personal needs that must be met. If they don't handle my laundry, I won't have clean clothes to wear. "Are you trying to take advantage of me?" my mother-in-law asks. I respond, "Not at all, but given my condition, I need your help." At that, my in-laws looked at me as though I were a burden. My mother-in-law added, "We can't afford to spend money on a housekeeper." I assured her, "I'll handle the cost." I was grateful that I had continued working. With my financial independence, I arranged for a housekeeper to come to the house. Her name was Susie, a 52-year-old woman whose husband had passed away years ago, and she had no children. Susie's demeanor reminded me of my late mother, kind-hearted, and gentle. She took excellent care of me, and I felt a sense of comfort with her presence. Now, the only people I can talk to are Susie and the helper, not my family. When Susie arrived, my in-laws quickly tried to take advantage of her. "You should handle our laundry and cleaning as well," they demanded. "No," Susie replied firmly. "You're the housekeeper. It's part of your job," they insisted. "Doing your chores will require additional payment. Are you willing to cover the extra cost?" She countered. "How dare you? You're an insolent housekeeper," they exclaimed. Despite the argument that followed, I felt a sense of relief knowing Susie stood her ground. After about a year of this arrangement, my sister-in-law returned home, recently divorced. "My husband cheated on me," she said, seeking refuge in the midst of her troubles. "He was an idiot. He must have been easily led astray by some woman," my sister-in-law added. "He was always such a nag." My brother-in-law held a stable job at a large company and had always seemed like a trustworthy businessman. His actions didn't match the profile of someone who would betray his wife. I found the situation odd, but I chose to stay quiet to avoid causing conflict. Mia echoed my in-laws' demands for Susie's help, but Susie stood her ground and firmly refused. Susie wasn't fond of my in-laws, as they had never said a kind word to me. I declined their request. Susie stated, "Why are you here taking care of Jane? They claimed you were a useless housekeeper just like Jane." "It must be because she's not paying you enough," they continued. "After all, it's just a side job for her. Jane can't even take care of herself, so I have to rely on the housekeeper for help," they said. "Mia and Kelly, you both can manage on your own right, so there's no need for extra help." My in-laws' sarcastic comments intensified once Mia returned home. "A bedridden wife is just a burden. Now that Mia's back, you make our house feel crowded. We only need Mia here. You're doing well financially, spending your time in bed drawing your little sketches." Even while I was working, my sister-in-law would go out of her way to enter my room and make cutting remarks. Frustrated with the constant sarcasm, I brought it up with my husband. "Please ask your mother and Mia to be more mindful of their language. It hurts me, even if there's some truth to it," my husband replied. "What do you mean some truth? All you do is lie in bed and can't handle the housework," I said. "I'm not just lying in bed. I'm working." "You're working from bed. It's not the same as having to commute to an office like me," he countered. "I understand that, but I'm still trying my best to be productive," I responded. "My family isn't pleased with you because you can't manage the house. They see you as unhelpful," he said. "Do you really think so? Just try not to take things so personally. You'll struggle to survive if you let every little thing get to you." My husband showed little support or empathy. Though I understand the limitations of my body, his lack of concern for my well-being is disheartening. I long to walk and move as I once did, and I wish my husband could show some compassion and recognize how painful and difficult this is for me. Is it unreasonable to hope for some understanding? Despite trying to hold back my tears, they still fall. This accident changed my body, but I strive to stay hopeful and give my best. I refuse to lose hope. I remind myself that many others endure greater suffering. It's hard not having my parents around for support, but I take comfort in knowing they don't have to witness my struggles. Still, the realization that there's no one left in this house who stands by me. I feel increasingly despondent. I have no home to return to, and I wondered if there was a way I could leave this house with my husband. While I was mulling over my options, he blindsided me with his next words. For a fleeting moment, I thought he might be thinking about me, but his follow-up plunged me into despair. "I agree with what they said," he remarked. "What are you talking about?" I asked, confused. "Ultimately, they'd be better off if I had a younger, healthier wife." "What?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I want to have an heir, but with you, I just can't see it happening. It's impossible." It felt like a heavy blow to my head. The fact that my husband would speak to me like this made me realize I couldn't rely on him anymore. Though he continued to talk, I couldn't process anything beyond his desire to divorce me because he deemed me useless like a piece of trash. "You might be paying for a housekeeper, but with your limited income, you'll have nothing left after settling that bill. You're just a burden on us. A leech clinging to our home, aren't you? Even helpers come with a cost. Leeches who spend money on helpers, get out." After enduring such hurtful words from both my husband and in-laws, I felt there was no reason to remain here any longer. I thought to myself, I have no home to return to. I must find a new place to live. All right, I'll move out. I enlisted Susie's help in finding a new place to live. She gladly assisted me, and thanks to online procedures, the process was remarkably convenient. Once all the paperwork was sorted, I presented Tom with the divorce papers. Good, you finally made your decision. But don't blame me. Blame yourself for having such a body, he remarked callously. Very well. Are you certain you're okay with me leaving? I asked. Of course it's fine. I'll find someone more suitable for me. Everyone says I'll find a better wife. Will you be able to support yourself? He inquired. Don't worry about me, I assured him. We still have retirement funds, and Mia received ample compensation for that affair. Money won't be an issue for a while. So I won't have to rely on you anymore, he stated coldly. Sure, then do as you please, Tom replied indifferently. I couldn't help but feel that Tom was oblivious to reality. Without another word, I moved out, and despite the challenges, there were some silver linings. Living alone meant my helper could assist me with daily tasks like cleaning, laundry, and shopping, for which I was truly grateful. Additionally, I continued to rely on Susie's support as before. Interestingly, Susie was once a dedicated businesswoman at a major company before she married. Despite her digital savvy and competitive spirit, she grew weary of the corporate world and left it behind when she got married 20 years ago. She chuckled as she recounted her past. But I couldn't help but wonder if her resilience came from her experiences. Now she's more than just my housekeeper. She's managing my affairs and does so happily, seeing it as a way to lend a helping hand. Moreover, the new apartment I moved into is fully accessible for wheelchairs, allowing me greater independence. The spacious kitchen even enables me to cook for myself. Just as I was starting to settle into my new life, my ex-mother-in-law began calling me frequently. However, there was nothing left to discuss, so I chose to ignore the calls. Susie's excellent support and my ability to concentrate on my work without the ongoing drama led to significant growth in my business. I simply didn't have the time to engage with my ex-mother-in-law. A year went by. Mia still reaches out occasionally, though less frequently than before. My life had stabilized, and I decided it was time to resolve any lingering matters, so I picked up the phone. Hello. Finally, you picked up. I've been worried because you never answered the phone. Mia spoke to me in an uncharacteristically sweet voice. This was unlike her demeanor when I lived with them. I suspected she might be facing some trouble and had heard about my success. I appreciate your concern, but I'm doing well and thriving on my own. There's no need to worry about me. Oh, that's good to hear. So do you still want to come back and live with us as you did before? Excuse me? You can't possibly want a parasite and piece of garbage like me to return. I've been reflecting on our past decisions. It wasn't right to leave you, someone with a physical disability, on your own. We'll provide the support you need so you won't have to worry anymore. Actually, I'm thriving on my own. My helper manages my daily tasks, including cleaning, laundry, and shopping. Susie now assists me with my work as well. I really have no concerns. I heard you are earning more than Tom now. Is that true? Yes, that's accurate. At the time of our divorce, it seems he overlooked my growing income. I recall him mentioning you earn close to $15,000 monthly. My income initially covered their living expenses after the accident when Tom's company faced challenges and his salary was reduced. My earnings kept rising, so I offered financial support. He started with apologies, and we kept his salary cut from his parents to avoid causing them worry. However, after 3 years, he seemed to forget that I was the primary contributor to our household expenses. I considered setting aside his own income for the divorce, but I didn't bring it up. I also learned that Mia's divorce was not due to her husband cheating. It was actually her fault. He contacted me directly. He also revealed that Mia stole money from him. Mia claimed she received it as alimony, but he intends to retrieve the exact amount she took and charge her for compensation. I chose to proceed with my divorce before my in-laws could discover the truth. When I confronted Kelly about it, she was visibly shocked. Tom developed feelings for a hostess at a bar and ended up accumulating some debt. Oh, so that's why he wanted the divorce. He hoped to siphon off your income. He can forget about that. Besides, their connection was purely transactional. He was just a customer. I know, were you aware? Yes, I knew everything. Why didn't you tell me? Were you also aware that Tom's company was struggling? Yes. How could you keep this from me when you knew all along? According to Kelly, Mia ran off with her unfaithful boyfriend, but he abandoned her and left her with even more debts. Tom's company declared bankruptcy 6 months ago, and he's been job hunting since then. However, he can't find a position he deems suitable, leaving him unemployed. He's lost all self-esteem and has become a recluse. The children now living with us depleted Dad's retirement savings and we're now burdened with substantial debt. Is that so? So, if you come back, everything will be okay. I don't understand how they can say that everything will be okay after how they pushed me out of their lives. The audacity to think I would return. I wondered how so much could change in a year, much faster than I expected. Tom likely never imagined his company would actually go bankrupt, but his lack of foresight led to this outcome. Kelly tearfully confessed that if she had known what would happen, she would have prevented our divorce. But now it's far too late for that. All she seems to care about is money and herself. Mia, meanwhile, has no motivation to work and has become a couch potato, gaining weight in the process. Well, Tom sold the house to pay off the kids' debts. The property was old and not valuable, and the cost of clearing the land was deducted from the sale. The location was also undesirable, so they didn't receive much money for it. Now the 4 adults are crammed into a small one-room apartment, struggling to make ends meet. Kelly sobbed on the phone, saying they were forced to work long hours at part-time jobs and were completely worn out. This is all your fault for not answering my calls. If I had reached you before we sold the house. What exactly are you trying to say? If you had known we were selling the house, you would have assisted us, right? After all, you lived there too, so you must have some sentimental attachment to it, correct? Absolutely not. What? I couldn't believe how self-centered she was. I was relieved I didn't answer the phone. Even if I had, I wouldn't have gone along with such a selfish request. So both Tom and Mia are depending on you, along with Mother and Kelly. Please come back. You're the only one we can rely on. Sorry, but I'm not your family. Don't depend on me. Don't say that. We're sorry for everything. I apologize. I can't believe she's saying this. I felt a headache coming on. It was time to give them an ultimatum and bring this to an end. The reason I picked up your call today is because I have something important to tell you. What is it? I'm planning to sue all of you. What? Why should we be held responsible? Tom didn't cheat on you, and he wasn't involved with the hostess bar girl. It's not about infidelity. It's about the mental anguish caused by the verbal abuse I endured from all of you. What? I informed her that I had recorded and documented all the abusive language they had directed at me. When I mentioned the evidence I possessed, she became visibly agitated and abruptly ended the call. Perhaps she realized that continuing the conversation could lead to greater consequences. It was interesting to observe her reaction. When my lawyer issued a formal request for compensation, Kelly carefully tried to negotiate a settlement, citing their current hardships. However, I stood my ground and refused to accept any offer that did not hold them accountable. I was asked to create an illustration, which brought me a step closer to realizing my dream of becoming a picture book author. Despite all the challenges I've faced, I remain committed to approaching life with a positive attitude and not taking myself too seriously. Come on, play something. There's not much our poor family can do anyway, said someone at my mother-in-law's birthday party. Everyone there, her friends, my husband's friends, and our relatives, looked at me all at once. My mother-in-law, wanting to embarrass me, grinned and stared at me. I slowly put my fingers on the keyboard. My name is Noriko, and I'm a 36-year-old stay-at-home mom. I live with my husband Tom and our daughter Hannah, who's in 5th grade. With a kind husband and a sweet daughter, I should be happy. But there's one problem, my relationship with Hannah. When my mother-in-law saw Hannah, she rushed over and hugged her tightly. "Grandma, it's been so long," said Hannah. "You've grown up and you look pretty again, Grandma." My mother-in-law happily chatted with Hannah, but as soon as she saw me nearby, she glared at me. "What are you doing? Isn't it polite to offer tea or something? Or do you mean to tell me you can't even serve your mother-in-law? Grandma, what's up?" Hannah asked, puzzled. "Oh, why don't you come with me to the mall, Hannah? They have a big buffet there." "Really? I'd love to," Hannah said eagerly, but she glanced at me, looking unsure about leaving us alone. Her eyes darted, unsure of what to do. Go with Grandma, Hannah. Are you sure? I reassured her with a smile, and she looked relieved. Let's go, Grandma, she said happily, taking her grandmother's hand. With a smug look on her face, my mother-in-law whisked Hannah away to the mall. The issue here is that my relationship with my mother-in-law isn't good. When my husband's around, she acts kindly towards me, which makes me feel relieved. But when it's just me and her, she starts saying mean things. My son told me you only went to a junior college, right? She'd say. Yes, I did, I replied slowly. You hesitated. I wonder why Tom chose you. What do you mean by that? Do you have a problem with me? Tom is highly educated, graduated from a top private university, and yet he chose you, who was from a poorer background with just a junior college degree. I tolerate you because you're Tom's wife, but honestly, I wouldn't want to be around someone as poor as you. What's the point of having only a junior college degree? You lack education, money, and common sense. You need everything spoon-fed to you. That's why I dislike people with just a junior college education, she said with a cutting tone. Her words hurt me deeply. I'll try to be polite when others are around, but please keep your distance from me, I replied, stung by her unreasonable argument. Since then, when we're alone, she's been unkind to me. I've tried to ignore her insults, following my strategy of minimizing contact with her, as my mother-in-law suggested. But the real problem is my daughter, Hannah. She adores her grandchildren and visits us every 3 days. Most times she takes my daughter away from me, just like she's doing now. My heart ached as I watched my daughter anxiously ask me, "Don't you and Grandma get along?" "We're okay, sweetheart," I replied, trying to hide my own hurt. "But Grandma says you're mean to her," my daughter said. "It's the other way around," I wanted to say, but I held back. Instead, I just said, "Maybe we had a disagreement the other day." "Mom, you have to make up with Grandma," Hannah insisted. "You're right. We'll try to patch things up." I forced a smile at her directness, though inside it hurt. One day, my mother-in-law came over and said, "Hannah told me you teach piano." "Yes, I teach her. I'm teaching her on my father's old grand piano. It's a bit worn, but it's precious to me. I used to play my favorite songs on it, and now I'm teaching my daughter," I explained. "Mom, I want to learn too," Hannah chimed in. So she started learning piano from me? I'm not the best teacher, but her enthusiasm touched me. Teaching her became a special and fulfilling time for both of us, despite the challenges. While I pondered this, my mother-in-law's expression turned stern. "Step aside," she said in a low voice. "What?" "Step aside." "But I've been teaching Hannah," I protested. "Not anymore. I don't want someone like you with your background teaching her. Don't you care about Hannah's future?" Shocked by her tone, I stammered. "What's wrong? Do you want to argue?" But she cut me off, saying, "Never mind. Let me put it in simple terms for you. I'm saying I'm a better teacher than you." "Why?" "Because I graduated from a top music school, unlike you from a lesser college," she asserted. "What? Have you heard of TG University?" I retorted. I swallowed hard as my mother-in-law boasted about her education. "I graduated from a prestigious 4-year university, unlike you," she bragged. "I see, I didn't know it was TG University," I replied. "TG University is top-notch, especially for music students. If my mother-in-law graduated from its piano department, she must be highly skilled. Even someone like you can understand that, right? You're not on the same level," she sneered, making my throat tighten. TG University truly is a light, as my mother-in-law claimed. It's clear that my daughter would benefit from learning from her. But it also means sacrificing more of my time with my daughter to my mother-in-law. She already takes up a lot of our time, and now she wants to take even more. That's something I can't allow. The time I spend teaching piano to my daughter is precious and irreplaceable, I asserted. "Isn't that selfish of you?" She sighed loudly, interrupting me. "That's not what I meant." "What do you mean then?" "You're standing here, a graduate of a prestigious teaching university, a top musician. Normally, people would pay for your teaching expertise. But out of kindness, I'm offering to teach for free. How can you reject that just because you want to teach? You're not even that skilled. Don't you dare speak to me like that." "Fine, I'll play for you right now. I'll show you I have the ability to teach my daughter." "Who wants to hear a poor woman like you play? Your playing will make our ears bleed." "What can I do to prove myself to you?" "You don't even need to prove anything. You just need to follow my instructions." I've already spoken to Hannah. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What had my mother-in-law told my daughter without involving me? I felt a surge of anxiety. I've already spoken to Hannah. I'll be teaching her piano from now on. I graduated from a renowned music academy and I'm better at piano than you. You agreed it would be best for her. Why are you being so selfish? I didn't expect you to oppose this so strongly. With my qualifications, it's only natural for me to take over. Did you never consider my opinion? You're incredibly stubborn. It's decided, so stop being selfish. With that, my mother-in-law swiftly left. Since then, she's been coming to our house daily to teach Hannah piano. I'm not even allowed in the room where they have lessons. During breaks, my mother-in-law always tells me, "You don't understand. Hannah has a talent for music, and she needs proper education to develop it. With your limited qualifications, you're not capable of providing that. If you continue as her instructor, you'll ruin her talent. Understand?" Yes. Well, that's settled then. You won't be bothering us anymore. Stay out of our way, got it? I fought back tears of frustration as my mother-in-law looked down at me, a pang of pain piercing my heart. "I'm going to play piano with Hannah," my mother-in-law said cheerfully, then turned to Hannah. I had once pleaded with my husband to intervene, but he didn't see it as a big deal. "What's wrong with her teaching Hannah piano?" he asked dismissively. "It's not just about teaching piano, it's about taking away quality time from me and Hannah." "You're overreacting. I'm sure Mom just wants to lend a hand. Why do you have to criticize her efforts to make your life easier?" "No, it's not helping. I'll talk to Mom about it, okay? Please don't be so upset." But the truth is, she doesn't take me seriously. From the outside, it might seem like my mother-in-law is being helpful in raising my child. But in reality, she's like a devil trying to snatch my precious daughter away from me. No one understands the pain I feel. It's frustrating, but I have to do what's best for Hannah. I feel so frustrated that all I can do is try to talk myself out of it, I thought, but then the worst happened. "Nicole, come here." I was summoned into the piano room, a place I hadn't been allowed to enter recently, and my eyes widened as I stepped inside. A piano. "Oh, you recognize it. We just got a new one." My mother-in-law chuckled, gesturing towards a brand new piano beside her. "Kelly, what's going on? Where's my father's piano?" "I got rid of it." "You got rid of it?" "Yes, I got rid of it because it was falling apart," my mother-in-law replied casually, causing my heart to shatter. "Why, that was my father's piano, full of memories with him," I choked out. "It doesn't matter to me. That old piano doesn't fit me and Hannah." "Oh, no, how could you?" I hoped she was lying, so I questioned her. "I called the contractor and had it taken away while you were out," she said without hesitation. "You entered the house without permission." "What do you mean, without permission?" "I always do that." "There's a big difference between your presence and absence, isn't there? You can't just dispose of someone's property without permission." "How could you do that?" "Shut up. I was being kind by getting rid of that old piano and buying a new one for you. I might regret it, but I don't deserve to be yelled at," she snapped, pushing me out of the room and slamming the door behind me. "You clearly don't understand the importance of this piano. Don't even think about touching it without my permission. And you're not allowed in this room either. Right now, Hannah is practicing a song for my birthday party. People like you are disrupting her practice." I had reached my breaking point as the door slammed shut with a resounding thud. That night, I asked Hannah, "Are you practicing a song for Grandma's birthday party?" "Yes, I'm practicing really hard." "Please listen to me, Mom," she replied earnestly. "Yes, of course, I'll listen. By the way, Hannah, I have a favor to ask you." I smiled at her, and she cheerfully replied, "What is it?" Then came the day of my mother-in-law's birthday party. Relatives, neighbors, and friends were all invited, along with some of my daughter's friends. It seemed like my mother-in-law was in a different mood this year. She had sent letters to many people a few days before, insisting that her granddaughter would play the piano for her birthday and she would love for them to come and listen. Her plan worked, as the guests were mostly relatives, neighbors, and my mother-in-law's friends, along with some of my daughter's friends. I'm sure she had instructed my daughter to invite as many friends as possible. My mother-in-law smiled when my daughter brought a lot of friends, saying, "So the granddaughter is playing the piano for me, huh?" I thought maybe it was a mistake to have my daughter practice piano for the party, but I kept quiet. I spent the morning busy making food and a cake for the party. My husband and daughter helped me, but my mother-in-law didn't want to pitch in at all. It was her birthday party, but I wish she appreciated my efforts too. Nonetheless, I was glad to see so many people gathered. Once the preparations were done, my mother-in-law stood up in front of everyone and exclaimed, "Thank you all for coming to celebrate with me." The party began with my mother-in-law's lively voice and exaggerated gestures, as if she were a stage performer. After enjoying the food and chatting for a while, my daughter stood up and moved in front of my mother-in-law. "Happy birthday, Grandma." "I have a present for Grandma," my daughter announced, then took a seat at the piano placed in the back of the room. "Please listen," she said cheerfully before starting to play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. The tune was sweet, and I could see smiles on everyone's faces, but it wasn't flawless. Clearly, her skills had declined. Anna could have played better. As I pondered this, the performance came to an end. My daughter smiled shyly at my mother-in-law, who praised her, saying, "You did wonderfully. Thank you, Hannah." Then my mother-in-law turned to me. "And now I have a request for you." "Oh, what is it, Hannah?" "I want to hear you play, not the easy pieces, the difficult ones. Can you?" For some reason, my mother-in-law seemed puzzled by my daughter's request. Her eyes darted around, but when she caught sight of me, she put on a sickening smile. "Yes, you may play. But before I do, Nicole, didn't you say you were going to play a piece for me?" My mother-in-law looked at me and said something like that. I had never promised such a thing, but I felt pressured. She was going to do it? What? I hadn't heard my mother play in a long time. "Yes, Hannah. Your mother is going to give us a wonderful performance for Grandma." "Wow, I'm looking forward to it," my mother-in-law said after seeing her granddaughter smile, then turned to me. "It's my birthday, so I'll let you touch this piano." With that, she pushed me and made me sit down in front of the piano. The whole room was buzzing with excitement after Hannah's lovely performance, and all eyes were on me, eagerly anticipating what I would play next. "Well, there's not much a poor person like you can play anyway, right?" My mother-in-law whispered in my ear, so only I could hear. It was like she was daring me to embarrass myself in front of my daughter. "Come on, Nicole, play for us. Everyone's curious to hear what you'll play," she mocked. Despite her taunts, I quietly replied, "Okay." I slowly placed my fingertips on the keys, took a deep breath, tapped the keyboard once, and then began to play a piece with great energy. "What?" was my mother-in-law's puzzled voice in the background as I carefully played the piece, making sure not to falter in my finger movements. The piece was Chopin's Etude Op. 10 No, one famously used as the opening song of the Annam Piano Forest. It's a very challenging piece for performers, but it's one I've practiced extensively and become quite skilled at. There was no way I could fail. I flawlessly finished the piece, then stood before the stunned audience and gracefully bowed. Instantly, applause erupted from the crowd. Surrounded by eyes filled with emotion and excitement, and applause filled with admiration, I basked in a feeling I hadn't experienced in a long time. My mother-in-law, standing beside me, muttered, "No way." When I asked her what was wrong, she huffed in response. "It's nothing," she said firmly. I countered with a confident smile. "You seem impressed. Where did you learn to play like that?" My eyes conveyed a silent message. Despite growing up poor, I still managed to excel. My mother-in-law turned to Tom, asking, "What?" "Nicole won an award for excellence in a junior piano concert when she was in high school. It's been a while since I've heard her play, but she's still amazing. Her performance was beautiful yet powerful." "No, I'm not that great. There are plenty of people better than me." I quickly deflected, then turned back to my mother-in-law. "You graduated from that famous music college, TG University, right?" "Yes, I did." "Why do you ask?" "I'm quite curious. How do you teach piano to Hannah? What kind of music do you focus on?" "Well, that's not really relevant at the moment, is it?" "Why not?" "You graduated from a renowned music university and a teacher's college as a musician. Surely you have some input on her education, right?" "No, it's not necessary to worry about that. Just play something for me." "What?" "Please play a piece of music I've always wanted to hear. Your wonderful performance." I would even ask my daughter to play it for me. My mother-in-law's eyes widened at my request. Yes, I only had one request for my daughter, to have her grandmother play. "So, could you please ask Grandma to play for her birthday party too? That's all." But that's all it would take to complete my revenge. While I embarrassed myself in front of all my relatives by playing poorly, my mother-in-law would hide behind an excuse, claiming I was too ill to play. But I'm sorry, I can play just fine. Ah, I want to hear it too, my daughter agreed cheerfully. Grandma's fingers aren't feeling well, so she only lets me play simple pieces. Is that so, Hannah? How did you learn to play the piano from your grandmother? At first, I played the songs she taught me, but they were all easy. So these days, I play while looking at the music sheets you gave me. Grandma always compliments me on how good I am. Do you get any advice from your grandmother? No, she always says she has nothing to teach me because I'm a genius, so I don't get any advice from her. I see, I got the point. I had thought that Hannah's piano skills were declining, but that was what it was all about. My mother-in-law had told me that she would teach my daughter the piano, but in reality, she didn't teach her much, and the whole time she was teaching her, my daughter was teaching herself. I want to hear my grandmother play, not the usual easy pieces, but the harder ones like my mother used to play for me. Grandma, I'm looking forward to it. Then let's listen to my grandma play together. Yes, that's what Grandma said. She plays the piano better than Mom. That's why I've always wanted to hear her play. I'm so happy for you. Today you'll finally get to hear your grandmother play. I'm so happy. Despite her smiling, my mother-in-law's face began to turn pale. What's wrong? Hannah wants to listen to your performance. No, I'm not feeling well today. She's waiting for you to play a simple nursery rhyme for her. Hannah is really looking forward to it. Yes, but I'm not. My mother-in-law started sweating, her eyes darting nervously at my words. What's wrong? You can't play. What? You can't play? After that performance? Come on, you graduated from TG University, right? You can play just as well as I can, no problem, right? I graduated from a teaching university, but my major was conducting. Even if you're studying conducting, piano is one of the subjects, right? I chose an instrument other than the piano. With my small hands, I'm limited in the pieces I can play. There's no way I can play as fluently as you. My mother-in-law's outburst caused a stir among the people around us, who started to wonder what was happening. You can't play the piano, huh? But weren't you proudly telling us that you were teaching your granddaughter to play? You said you played better than your daughter-in-law's poor piano, didn't you? What do you mean? The suspicious gazes around me turned towards her. It's not like that, okay? I'm not, you guys, I do play the piano. Hey, Grandma. My daughter's eyes widened in genuine curiosity as she asked her grandmother a question. Can't you play the piano? Hannah, if you don't play the piano, why did you lie and say you do? No, Hannah. I didn't lie, it's true. When I asked her why she was always so kind to me but so strict with my mother, she told me it was because my mother mistreats her, and I thought that was true. What are you talking about, Hannah? Could it be that you're really tormenting my mother? My mother-in-law screams in sorrow at my daughter's words. No, it can't be, of course not. Nicole and I are good, aren't we, Nicole? No way. What are you talking about, Nicole? There is no way I can get along with someone who would throw away a piano given to me by my father, my most precious possession. What? My daughter tilted her head. She said that you said you didn't need it anymore, so she threw it away and bought a new one. It was very precious that I got from my father. Even if I couldn't play it anymore, I wouldn't throw it away. Really? Then why did you throw it away, Grandma? Didn't you know that it was my mother's precious treasure? To her daughter's words, my mother-in-law just shook her head and said, No. The conversation between us caused the guests to start fussing. My husband, sensing that the mood had deteriorated, asked the guests to leave, saying, Let's call it a night. He began to urge them to leave the room. Wait, it's really not true. There is a reason for this. There's a reason. What's the reason? She said you told her you didn't need it anymore, so she threw it away and bought a new one. But it was special, a gift from my dad. Even if I couldn't use it anymore, I wouldn't throw it away. Really? Then why did you throw it away, Grandma? Didn't you know it meant a lot to my mom? To her daughter's question, my mother-in-law just shook her head and kept saying, No. Our conversation upset the guests. My husband felt the tension and asked everyone to leave, saying, Let's end the night. He urged them to go. Wait, it's not what you think. There's a reason. What's the reason? That's enough, I said firmly. looking at my mother-in-law, who was muttering to herself, "Please don't ruin my daughter's talent because of your own selfishness." My words seemed to hit her hard. She sank to her knees. After that day, she never visited our house again. She had made a scene at her own birthday party. No matter how much she might want to, she wouldn't be welcome at our place anymore. And it seemed her relatives and neighbors who were at the party were spreading rumors about her. Now she's being avoided by them. Still, she keeps insisting, "It's not my fault, I was framed. That wicked wife set me up." She's going around the neighborhood saying it's not her fault, but nobody believes her. Honestly, it's just typical of her. Meanwhile, my daughter has been practicing piano with me, and she's improving a lot. "Mom, I want to play a duet with you." "Well, that might be tough until you improve a bit more on the piano. Then I'll practice loads and get even better than you. I'm sure you'll surpass me quickly, Hannah. And I'm going to be a pianist, a pianist, a pianist. And when I perform in front of lots of people, I'll say I became a pianist because of my mom who taught me." "She's much better at piano than I am, Hannah. So I'll practice a lot. I'll keep at it. Thank you, Mom. I'm really happy to have peaceful times with my daughter again." My name is Chelsea. A few weeks ago, my father, who had been battling illness, passed away. I wish he could have seen his grandchildren, and that thought weighed heavily on me. I got married 5 years ago when I was 25. At my wedding, my father and I made a promise that I would tell him first when I got pregnant, but that promise remained unfulfilled. It's my one regret about my father, even though I did everything I could for him since his illness was diagnosed a year ago. I visited my parents' home frequently and accompanied my mother to the hospital. I increased the frequency of my phone calls and video chats, but I still can't shake the feeling that I could have done more. My mother, sitting next to me, reassured me. "You did your best, Chelsea." "Really?" I asked. "Yes, your father would have been satisfied," she said. At that moment, my sister Portia walked in with the lawyer. The lawyer, a man in his mid-40s, introduced himself as Samuel and handed me his business card. "I'm Samuel, the attorney. Thank you for coming. Please have a seat," he said. "Excuse me," my mother said as she guided him to a seat. Once he was settled, my sister blurted out, "I heard from this lawyer that Dad left quite an inheritance. And it's not all for you, Portia." "I know that," I said, my sister now glaring at me. I glared back. Our relationship had become strained since we learned of Dad's illness, mainly because of Portia's arrogance. Despite my attempts to reach out, she never visited our father. Of course, I may have been too harsh because I was worried about him. But her indifference was also a problem. "You're not a child, so stop being so stubborn," I said. "I'm not being stubborn," she retorted. "I live in a city. It's not easy to come out to the countryside." "But you can get here in 2 hours by car," I said. "Those 2 hours are tough and costly," she shot back. "It's the money that's important to you, isn't it?" "Of course, I'm busy, so stop contacting me." With that, she stopped talking. Even though she lived far away, she could have visited occasionally. That's why our relationship soared so quickly. In the end, Portia never visited our father, and our relationship never improved. The lawyer sensed the tension and intervened. "Let's calm down, please." "I apologize," I said, and the lawyer nodded. "As I mentioned on the phone, I have your father's will here. He contacted me a few weeks before he passed away. We met at the hospital, and he wrote the will in front of me with his primary physician present," the lawyer explained. My father had arranged for his physician to contact the lawyer upon his passing. Then the lawyer reached out to us, which brings us to the present moment. He pulled out a white envelope and placed it in front of us. "This is the will," he said. I recognized my father's handwriting on the envelope. Portia seemed impatient. "Never mind that. Just tell us what's in it." "I'm busy," she snapped. "Of course," the lawyer said with a wry smile as he opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper with my father's wishes. Besides the house and land, my father's inheritance included some savings and a storage shed. We knew about the house and land, but the storage shed was a surprise. As I was pondering this, Portia angrily interrupted the lawyer. "Wait a minute. What about the farm?" "Farm?" the lawyer asked. "Yes, the farm Dad used to work on as a hobby. My father ran a business in the next town. But after turning 50, he started thinking of closing it. I want to slow down a bit. Is that okay? Back when I was in high school, I heard this idea." My sister, already in college, wasn't keen on it, but my mother and I, concerned about my father's health, agreed. Don't worry about the money, Portia, my father reassured her. Reluctantly, she agreed. And so my father closed his company and started farming near our home. He found joy in moving his body while farming, and seeing him happy, I felt reassured that we had made the right decision. My sister, however, didn't seem to share the sentiment. She had promised to return home after college but ended up getting a job near her university. Eventually, she married the CEO of an IT company she met through work. That's why father took up farming until he fell ill. My sister insists that the farm should be part of the inheritance. When the lawyer reviewed the documents, he quickly found a note stating that the farm was rented land. Rented? My sister said, disappointed. But I thought we owned a large piece of land. Indeed, the farm where my father grew vegetables was spacious, but maybe it was for the best that it was rented, considering we knew little about farming. The conversation then turned to dividing the inheritance. The house and land go to the wife, the lawyer declared. So we can divide the rest however we want. Please divide the savings and storage shed between you two, he continued. Savings mean cash, right? I'll take the cash. How much is it? My sister asked. The savings amount to about $100,000. There's no need to pay inheritance tax for this amount, the lawyer replied. Then I'll take the $100,000 in cash, my sister declared triumphantly. But I couldn't agree with such a selfish arrangement. I strongly protested against my sister. Wait a minute, I object. Why? I'm the oldest daughter, I argued. That's irrelevant. You can have the storage shed, my sister retorted, flipping through the documents. What even is that anyway? She asked the lawyer. It's the storage shed next to the farm. You'll inherit the building, the land, and its contents, the lawyer explained. My sister's eyes lit up at the mention of land. Even though she's married to the CEO of an IT company, does she still want more money? I wondered. As I pondered, the lawyer continued, but it's about 65 square feet, roughly the size of a small bedroom. A small bedroom? Yes, here are the photos, the lawyer said, placing them on the table. The exterior looked like a rundown shack, and the interior contained only basic tools, nothing of significant value. I don't want it, my sister grimaced, glancing at the photos. The shed looked ordinary, almost unremarkable. These items are sentimental, but they won't bring in any money. As I considered the situation, my sister spoke up. Fine, I'll take the cash. You can have the dirty shed. Hold on, that's not fair, I protested. You agreed to the vegetable farming. What are you complaining about now? Her response left me with little to argue. Still, I couldn't let her take all of Dad's inheritance without standing up for myself. So we're good then? My sister pressed, waiting for my answer. My mother interrupted. As long as Portia won't complain later, I have no objections. Portia quickly agreed. Of course I won't complain. So it was decided. Portia would get the cash, and I would receive the shed. My sister grinned triumphantly, but I wasn't content. I'm not satisfied. I objected immediately. Just let it go. Why are you so greedy? Portia shot back. That's not it, I argued. You're being a hassle. You care more about money than about Dad's memory. Portia's words left me speechless. Of course, family is more important than money. While money matters, it should never be more valuable than family. But before I could respond, my sister abruptly ended the conversation. In the end, my mother received the house and land, while Portia got Dad's savings. All I was left with was the shed. My sister signed a document agreeing not to dispute the inheritance division and then laughed loudly. Frustrated, I vented to my mother. Mom, why didn't you help me? I did help you, she replied. How? You let Portia take the cash. I made sure you got the shed, she said with a smile. I pouted in response, but my mother added, you might find something surprisingly good if you look closely. The next day, I collected the key from the lawyer and headed to the shed near the field. It was a 10-minute walk from home along a quiet rural road. Finally, I reached the field my father had rented for the past year. Now that he had been hospitalized, the field stood empty. I unlocked the shed and pushed the door open. Wow, it's dusty, I muttered as a cloud of dust greeted me. The shed clearly hadn't been cleaned in a while. Still, there might be something of sentimental value left by Dad, I thought, glancing around. But the interior was just a dirty shed, filled with farming tools and not much else. While the tools might have sentimental value, they were nothing extraordinary. Maybe I should just take what's inside for now, I mumbled as I continued to survey the room. That's when I noticed something strange. Huh, I muttered. The inside of the shed seemed smaller than it looked from the outside. Perhaps it was the dim lighting, but the space felt a bit more confined than I had anticipated. Could it be my imagination? I stepped outside to take a closer look around the shed, but the feeling that something was off remained. After thinking it over, I walked around to the back of the shed, where it was bordered by a thicket of trees. To my astonishment, there was another door at the back. Wait, another entrance? I gasped. From inside the shed, there had only been a solid wall, indicating the only entrance was the door I used earlier. Yet, from the back, there was another door. I was puzzled. How could there be a door at the back that wasn't visible from inside? This suggested there was a separate space accessible only from the outside. Excitement surged through me as I realized this could be one of Dad's surprises. He loved surprises and often surprised me on my birthdays. The memories brought tears to my eyes. Determined to uncover Dad's hidden surprise, I hurried back into the shed and began searching for the key to the back door. If Dad had left something special, he would have likely hidden the key somewhere in the shed. I let my instincts guide me as I began the search. I rummaged through the shed and eventually found 2 keys hidden in the handle of a shovel. Curious, I went around to the back and tried one of the keys in the door. With a click, the door opened. What could be in here? I wondered. Inside the small space, only about 3 feet wide, stood a large safe. Is this from Dad's company? I thought as I recognized the safe. It was the same one I had seen in the corner of his office when I was a child. Feeling nostalgic, I hugged the safe. This discovery brought back memories of my father and made the inheritance worthwhile. However, knowing Dad, I was sure this wasn't the final surprise. There must be more surprises, I muttered as I inserted the second key into the safe. The door creaked open with a rusty sound. What I saw inside left me speechless. The safe contained an unexpected inheritance. I quickly locked the safe again and rushed to find my mother to share the news. After explaining the situation to her, I called my husband for help moving the safe from my parents' house. It then dawned on me that the contents of the safe were likely part of my inheritance and might require me to pay inheritance tax. I decided to seek professional advice to handle the situation properly. I consulted the lawyer, who recommended I speak with a certified public accountant. With a referral from a friend, I found an accountant and left the complicated matters in their hands. A year passed, and just when I thought things had finally settled down, my sister showed up near my home. "What brings you here all of a sudden?" I asked my sister, puzzled by her unexpected visit. "Well, I had some business at our parents' house, so I stopped by," she replied vaguely, her behavior striking me as odd. It seemed unlikely that she would casually visit, especially given the tension surrounding our father's inheritance. Our relationship wasn't one that involved casual drop-ins. I couldn't shake off my suspicion as I observed her. Despite her nervous demeanor, my sister asked, "Can I come in?" I hesitated for a moment before reluctantly agreeing. Once inside, after serving some coffee, she began to fidget before finally speaking up. "Do you happen to have won the lottery or something?" she blurted out. Confused, I shook my head. "No, I didn't, and it's not bonus season for my husband either." Perplexed by her line of questioning, I asked, "What on earth are you talking about?" This seemed to trigger her, and suddenly she grew defensive. "What are you making fun of me for?" she snapped. "No, I'm not making fun of you. I just don't understand what you're talking about," I replied, trying to keep the situation calm. "Money. You have it, don't you?" "Money," she exclaimed, her voice rising with excitement. It was then that she launched into a story she had heard a few days ago. She had run into our aunt in the city by chance, and their conversation had turned to our father's passing. "I know how hard it's been for you since you lost your father. Are you doing okay?" our aunt had asked. "Yes, well, I visited him many times when he was sick." "Thank you," my sister had replied. "But you must be relieved, right? Getting such a big thank you gift," our aunt had continued. "Thank you gift. Yes, your sister sent me a $500 gift card as a thank you for visiting him," our aunt had revealed. My sister had latched onto this information, convinced that I had sent the gift card. "You came into some extra money, didn't you?" my sister accused, pressing me for an answer. "Ah, so that's what this is about," I sighed. understanding her line of questioning. My reaction seemed to annoy her, and she snapped, "Why are you acting like that? Are you mocking me?" "No, not at all. It was just a thank you gift," I explained calmly. "But where did you get the money for it?" "That's what I want to know," she demanded. "From the inheritance, remember?" My sister frowned upon hearing this. "All you got was that dirty shed." "Yes, that's true, but there was a safe inside the shed. That's where the real inheritance was," I clarified. "Real inheritance?" she repeated, her interest piqued. I went on to explain the contents of the safe. Inside were valuable watches my father had collected as a hobby during his life. I admitted that I didn't know their exact worth, but I estimated the remaining savings at around $100,000. Given my father had been a successful business owner who retired early, this amount seemed modest. It led me to believe he had invested heavily in those watches. "If they're valuable, you'll have to pay inheritance tax," my mother had pointed out after seeing the contents of the safe. "What should I do, Mom?" I had asked. She paused to consider and advised, "It's best to declare everything properly. Things like this always come out in the end." "But how do I go about it?" I asked. "Let's consult the lawyer we spoke to recently," she suggested. So I scheduled another meeting with the lawyer. I was informed that when you inherit valuable items, the inheritance tax is determined by their current market value. Additionally, I was advised that a certified public accountant could manage the tax situation for me, so I entrusted them with the task. After consulting with the accountant, it was determined that the watches alone were valued at a minimum of $500,000. "With such high-value watches, you'll need to pay inheritance tax," the accountant advised. To cover the inheritance tax, I decided to sell some of the watches. Since I lacked expertise in valuing them, it made sense to sell the more expensive pieces to someone who could appreciate their worth. The proceeds from the sale were used to pay the inheritance tax, and I sent thank you gifts to the relatives who had supported us. Those thank you gifts were the gift cards my sister was referring to. Meanwhile, I kept sentimental items like the pocket watch my father often wore. As I shared the story with my sister, I showed her the pocket watch. "This one isn't expensive, but it holds the most memories for me," I explained. Despite this, my sister's reaction was less than enthusiastic. "You don't have any watches left?" she asked. "No, I still have some in the safe," I reassured her. "It's at Mom's place. The safe is too large for my house and was the one Dad used at his company." My sister murmured, looking away and deep in thought. Her expression made me uneasy, but she soon stood up and announced, "I'm leaving now that I know where the money came from." She left without further incident. Given my sister's focus on money, I expected she might demand a share of the proceeds from the watch sales. So I was relieved she left without any fuss. In my relief, I overlooked the earlier unease I felt about her demeanor. However, my relief was short-lived. Late that night, my mother called me urgently. "Chelsea, it's urgent. Please come over right away." "What happened, Mom?" I asked, alarmed by her frantic tone. "It's just really bad," she replied, her voice shaky. My husband and I rushed to my mother's house. As we approached, we noticed something alarming. The area around my parents' house was lit up in red. "What's going on?" I exclaimed. As we got closer, the reason became clear. Several police cars were parked outside my parents' house. I pushed through the crowd and called out to my mother. "What happened, Mom?" My mother told me the story. Around 9 p.m., feeling exhausted, she had already gone to bed. Shortly after, she heard unusual noises, like someone searching for something, coming from the house. Her first thought was that it was a burglar. Feeling alone and vulnerable, she decided to escape through the window. As she looked back, she saw the beam of a flashlight moving inside the house, confirming her suspicion. She ran to the neighbor's house and cried out for help, saying, "There's a burglar." The neighbor immediately came outside and saw the flashlight inside my mother's house. They called the police, assuming it was a break-in. However, it turned out not to be a burglar at all. It was my sister, who had sneaked into the house to search through the safe after hearing my story. Neither my mother nor the neighbor could have known that the intruder was my sister. When the police arrived, my sister was caught off guard and attempted to flee the scene. In her panic, she tried to make a quick escape but bumped into the open door of the safe, causing the already unstable safe to topple over and trap her. So, Portia got trapped under the safe. I asked, still trying to process the events. Yes, that's what happened, my mother confirmed. She was taken to the hospital by ambulance, but she keeps saying her leg hurts. I was truly dumbfounded. What on earth was my sister thinking? After the incident, my mother and I apologized to the police officers who responded to the call, feeling bad for summoning them so late. I also called my sister's husband to inform him about what had happened. Wait, so Portia broke into her own family home and got injured? I asked. Yes, that's correct, my mother confirmed. When I spoke to my sister's husband, he expressed his frustration. He mentioned that Portia had accumulated a significant amount of debt, primarily from overspending on luxury goods. He had recently discovered this and had gotten into a heated argument with her. In the end, my sister left their house, saying she would borrow money from Mom and pay it back. It turns out my sister had already used the $100,000 she inherited to pay off her debts, still short of funds. She decided to come to me in search of more money. Learning about the contents of the safe drove her actions, ultimately leading to this mess. No wonder her husband was furious. In the end, my sister, who had fractured her leg, was hospitalized. Her husband went to the hospital with divorce papers, which left my sister in shock. I'm not getting a divorce. Absolutely not, she protested. But it was too late. Faced with the divorce papers, my sister had no choice but to sign them. Now she's lying in her hospital bed stunned. There's a part-time job magazine next to her, suggesting she's planning to work part-time to pay off her debts. For me, this news came as a relief. In the aftermath of all the commotion, I decided to move back to my parents' home to support my mother and help take care of the house. There was another reason behind the decision too. I had recently discovered that I was pregnant. My husband and I agreed that moving back home would be best, as my mother could help us with childcare. I wish I could have shared the news of my pregnancy with my father while he was still alive, but I'm certain he would have been happy for us. I'm looking forward to giving birth to a healthy baby and starting a new chapter in my life. My name is Rachel, and I'm a 33-year-old homemaker. My husband, Adam, and I have been married for 4 years, but we haven't been able to have a child yet. We're undergoing fertility treatments, but conceiving has proven difficult. One day, as I was returning from the grocery store, I noticed a little girl, a complete stranger, squatting in front of my house. I wondered why she was outside in the cold, winter weather without a coat, so I approached her and asked, "Are you waiting for someone? Can you tell me your name?" "Selena." "Selena. Okay. Where's your mother?" "Mommy went somewhere," she replied. "Are you lost? What's your mother's name?" "Mary." "Mary?" My heart sank. Mary, the sender of the letter, was my older sister. She had left home at 20 and never returned. It's been nearly 17 years since we last saw her. As a teenager, she often ran away, got into trouble with men, and caused financial and emotional strain. Now to find out she had a child. Selena handed me a piece of paper. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were the words, "Take care of this child for a while." "No way," I whispered. "Are you Mary's daughter?" "Mommy said to stay here because you're her sister," Selena explained. I took her hand and led her inside. She was freezing and trembling. I wondered how long she'd been outside. Mary had always been an irresponsible sister, but leaving her child like this was shocking. I'd always wanted a child, but couldn't have one. Pushing aside my feelings, I turned on the stove and wrapped Selena in a warm blanket. "Selena, are you hungry?" "Yes, I haven't eaten anything since yesterday." "You haven't eaten?" My concern deepened. "I'll get you some food right away." I heated up some pumpkin soup for her. Yesterday, I made some pumpkin soup and gave it to Selena right away. It was her first time trying it, and she eagerly drank a lot, clearly enjoying the taste. "This is delicious, it's really good," she exclaimed with a big smile. I was delighted to see her enjoy the soup so much, but it also saddened me, as I wondered what kind of meals she was used to. Instead of questioning her about her usual diet, I focused on cooking more food for her to enjoy. I made fried chicken, an omelet, and rice, and she devoured everything, praising each dish as delicious and tasty. Once she seemed completely satisfied, I suggested we take a bath. It seemed she hadn't bathed in a few days and her hair was greasy. "Selena, how about a bath?" I asked. Her expression tensed for a moment, and I could tell she wasn't entirely comfortable with the idea. "You don't like baths?" I asked. "No, it's fine," she replied hesitantly. I hurried to the bedroom to find some smaller clothes for her to wear as pajamas. When I returned to the living room, Selena was gone. Hearing water running in the kitchen, I peeked in and found her trying to wash her hair in the kitchen sink. "What are you doing? The water is so cold," I exclaimed. "You'll catch a cold." Selena apologized, but I assured her she didn't need to. I wrapped her in a blanket and took her to the bathroom. She seemed amazed as I led her inside. "This is just like the house I saw on TV," she exclaimed. From her reaction, it seemed the house where Selena lived did not have a proper bathroom. It broke my heart to think that Mary made her wash in cold tap water from the kitchen to save on gas money. Holding back tears, I undressed Selena and gently placed her in the warm bathtub. "It's so warm. Are baths always this warm?" she asked, eyes wide with wonder. "Yes, they are. From now on, you can take a warm bath every day," I said. "Really? I'm so happy," she replied with a big smile. I helped Selena warm up and get clean in the bath. Her hair was slightly tangled, but I treated it to make it more manageable, and she soon looked like herself again. After dressing her in my loungewear, we relaxed on the couch in the living room as we waited for Adam to come home. When Adam walked in, Selena seemed startled and drew back in fear. "I'm home," he called out. "Welcome back," I replied. "This is the girl I told you about." "Hello," Adam greeted, but Selena continued to shy away. "It's okay," I reassured her. "This is my husband, Adam. He's very kind, so you don't need to be afraid of him." I explained the situation to Adam, and he was visibly upset. "What? That's unforgivable. We'll keep her here for a while." Of course, I agreed. How could she abandon her own child? Once Adam and I had discussed the situation, we went back to Selena, who was curled up in the living room. I spoke gently to her. "Selena, as I mentioned, this is my husband, Adam." "Hi, Selena. Please call me Uncle Adam," he added. Selena nodded timidly, and I went on to explain. "The three of us will be living together here for a while. Is that okay with you?" "Is it really okay for me to stay here?" Selena asked hesitantly. "Of course," I said with a reassuring smile. "And once we get settled, you'll be able to go to elementary school." "I've never been to school," Selena said quietly. "You've never been to school? What about kindergarten?" "I haven't gone to kindergarten because I'm no one," Selena mumbled. My heart ached hearing her words. She was too young to understand why she might feel this way. I decided not to press her further that day and let her rest instead. The next day, we would find a way to help her adjust to her new life. I informed my parents about Selena's situation, and they rushed over to see us. Upon meeting Selena, they introduced themselves as her grandparents, Grandma and Grandpa, and enveloped her in a comforting hug. Selena seemed puzzled but happy, as if she had never realized she had grandparents before. After entrusting Selena to my parents' care, I headed to City Hall to obtain Mary's family records. To my surprise, Mary was unmarried, and there was no record of any children. It appeared that Selena's birth had never been officially registered, making her essentially a non-existent child who never received any formal notices, such as enrollment for elementary school. This revelation shed light on why Selena referred to herself as no one. After consulting with various authorities, including the Child Consultation Center and the municipal office, we finally managed to establish Selena's family register. I happily informed her, "Selena, now you can go to elementary school. I'm so happy for you." By this time, it had been over a month since Selena came to live with us, but she hadn't opened up much. She always seemed skittish, especially whenever Adam or I moved. Additionally, whenever she made a mistake, she would apologize excessively, curling up her body and covering her head. It was evident that Mary's past actions had left a lasting impact on her. "Selena, you don't have to apologize so much," I reassured her. "Uncle Adam and I will never get mad at you, and we will never harm you. I promise." "Really?" Selena asked with a glimmer of hope. "Of course," I replied sincerely. I made a promise, but despite that, Selena's shyness persisted. However, as time passed, she gradually became more talkative and even began to smile more often. Then one day, Selena blurted out, "I wonder when she will come for me." Those words struck a chord with me, evoking a sense of sadness. Despite Mary's mistreatment, Selena still longed for her mother. Since Selena's arrival, every day had been filled with joy for me. We had wanted children so badly and treated Selena as our own daughter. We hoped she would stay with us for a long time. The day after Selena's statement, she received an invitation to elementary school. I was relieved that she would finally experience the same school life as other children. Now that it's settled, we need to prepare for school, I said to Selena. We'll need to buy a school bag, stationery, and lots of clothes. Let's go shopping today for new clothes and stuff. I can get new clothes. I've already got some, Selena replied. It's not enough. You'll need more comfortable clothes for school, I insisted. So Selena, Adam, and I went to the shopping mall and got everything she needed for school. I was so excited about preparing for her school entrance that I ended up buying a lot of clothes and stationery. As we headed home, the three of us laughed and joked about buying too many things. However, to my surprise, I saw Mary standing in front of our house. Mom, Selena exclaimed. Mary responded coldly, It's not welcome home. What were you thinking? How dare you come here? I stepped in, trying to calm the situation. Hey, calm down. Don't yell. It's not productive. First, you need to apologize to Selena. But Mary only glanced at Selena and refused to make eye contact. What are you trying to do? I asked. We can't just stand here talking. Let me in the house. I'll do it even if you don't tell me. Let's go, Selena, Mary said, ignoring my question. I decided to let Mary in and ask her what was going on. Is this your husband? She asked, pointing at Adam. He's a nice guy. Nice to meet you. I'm Adam, he replied. I don't know how to say this, given it's our first meeting, but the way you've treated your child makes you an unfit parent. Mary seemed taken aback by Adam's boldness. You're too arrogant, my brother-in-law. You can't talk to me like that. You don't know me. Maybe not, but I do know you didn't take care of her properly. How could you neglect your own child? Adam countered. Mary, clearly irritated by our accusations, seemed unable to grasp the gravity of her actions. I was perplexed by her lack of accountability. I asked Selena how she felt about seeing her mother, and it was clear she was still scared. She couldn't look Mary in the eye and recoiled in fear. Initially, I assumed Selena missed her mother, but now I wasn't so sure. As I was contemplating this, Mary spoke up. You two don't have kids, right? She asked. No, but so what? I responded. Well, I'm going to leave this child with you, she declared. I've raised her through the toughest stages of her life. You should be grateful to have an older kid now. Adam was incredulous. Do you even know what you're saying? You're abandoning your own child as though she's an object to be handed off. I know exactly what I'm saying, Mary shot back. I'm giving you childless people a kid to raise. You should be thankful. I shook my head in disbelief. That's outrageous. We're not giving her back to you, even if you ask. We've already made her a family register, and she's going to start elementary school next month. We'll make sure she's happier than she was with you. Oh, so you've made a family register for her, Mary retorted, seemingly indifferent. I did, I responded. Why didn't you file a birth certificate? Because if I had, they would know I have a child. I didn't want to disrupt my life for such a selfish reason. Mary's admission explained why Selena had been unable to attend kindergarten or elementary school. Her callous attitude continued to baffle me. That's not right. Selena deserves an education. What you've done is neglect, not just active truancy, I told her, knowing that reasoning with Mary was pointless. Mary had apparently broken up with Selena's father before Selena was born and had never registered the birth. To date other men, she often left Selena alone, pretending to be unmarried and childless. Her goal was to find a new partner and raise her child. We'll take care of Selena, I said, firm in my decision, but please don't come back to see us again. Then give me 10 million yen. I'm giving you a person, so 10 million is a small price to pay, right? Mary demanded. What are you talking about? You're trying to sell your daughter? I was horrified. Of course, I'm not going to pay you though. Selena is a human being, I said firmly. When I refused to pay, Mary threatened to take Selena back and confine her at home, forcing her to wash with cold tap water again. I won't let you do that, I said. Fine, 10 million then, she retorted. Well, I can't get it for you today. You'll have to come back later to pick it up. I'll keep Selena here until then. I said, pretending to agree to her demands to keep Selena safe. Whatever. I don't want to be bothered with her anyway, Mary replied dismissively. Though I had no intention of paying Mary, I lied quickly to prevent her from taking Selena away. Knowing Mary might return to reclaim her, Adam and I considered what steps we could take next. But before acting, we wanted to understand how Selena felt. Selena, do you want to go back to your mommy? I asked her gently. I don't want to go back. Mom scares me. She always bumps into me and says mean things. I don't want to go back, Selena confessed. I see, I said gently. The other day, you mentioned wondering when your mother would come for you. Was that because you were afraid she'd make you leave us? Yes, Selena replied, her eyes downcast. I was worried that if Mommy came, I'd have to go back to that house. But I want to stay here forever. I understand, I reassured her. We'll do everything we can to make sure you can stay with us from now on. With Selena's feelings clear, Adam and I decided to investigate Mary's background further. We contacted an investigative firm known to Adam and discovered Mary was now engaged to a successful lawyer. We formulated a plan to keep Mary from taking Selena away and worked discreetly to prepare everything. A week later, when everything was set, we informed Mary that we had the money and invited her to our home for the exchange. During the meeting, I had my parents care for Selena. When Mary arrived, she immediately asked if I had the money. I won't give you the money, and I won't give you Selena either, I declared firmly. Mary's expression turned sour. I came all the way here because you said you had the money ready. Now give it to me. Do you realize how heartbroken Selena is? I challenged her. You're trying to sell your own child for money. Unbelievable. How I raise my child is none of your business, Mary shot back. Children grow up just fine on their own. You don't understand because you don't have kids. Did you even tell your boyfriend about having a child? I asked pointedly. Of course not. He's a successful lawyer and we're getting married next year. We plan to live happily ever after. Don't bother us, Mary said dismissively. Just then, the door opened and Mary's fiancé, the elite lawyer, walked in. He had heard our conversation. Don't tell me what you just said is true, he said, shocked. Did you lie to me? What's going on? Why are you here? You told me you were unmarried and childless. I've never been married, Mary said. I just happened to have a child by mistake. By mistake? That's a terrible thing to say, Adam exclaimed, disgusted. The lawyer confronted Mary. I was about to marry you without knowing you cheated on me. Of course, I'm breaking off the engagement. You lied to me, so you'll need to pay me alimony. Wait, broken engagement alimony? Please don't leave me, Mary pleaded. Shut up. I can't marry a woman who treats her child like that. I don't even want to see your face, the lawyer replied, turning his back on her. Mary turned to me, her eyes filled with anger. Rachel, you brought him here. Why did you do this to me? Because I knew I couldn't handle it the usual way. I'm going to discuss Selena's case with this lawyer, I explained. I was suspicious, but after hearing your words today, I realized the truth. From now on, this lawyer will represent me and my family. You'll regret making an enemy of a lawyer, Mary threatened. Soon after, a police officer arrived at our house. I had previously reported Mary for child abandonment, and authorities had secretly recorded our previous conversation. I also informed them of her visit that day. Mary was taken into custody for child neglect and abandonment, facing a stint behind bars. Although it was a lengthy and complex process, Selena was eventually allowed to stay with us permanently. The lawyer demanded compensation from Mary for breaking the engagement, and she faced legal consequences. After her release from prison, Mary lost both her fiancé and Selena. Additionally, she had to work hard to pay the alimony and child support, which took a toll on her appearance and ability to attract men. Recently, she stormed into our house, crying and demanding Selena back. She's my baby. Give her back. What are you talking about? Selena is ours now. I won't let you take her back, I told Mary firmly. No, not mommy. Uncle and auntie are mommy and daddy, Selena chimed in. Mary, rejected by her own daughter, walked away in despair. I vowed never to let her regain custody of Selena. Mary would have to reflect on her actions alone. Meanwhile, Adam and I have stopped our painful infertility treatments. The three of us now live our days filled with laughter and joy. I'm grateful for the happiness Selena has brought into our lives, and I hope to spend the rest of my life giving her all the love I can.